How are you doing? I'm Richard, and this is over and over again the Positive Arsenal channel. This is this week's live show. There's going to be a little bit pieces to talk about. We're going to look back on the Sheffield United game from Sunday, look ahead to Thursday, of course, the big game in Prague. And also as well, we're going to have a discussion about the impact of no fans in football now for what's over a year, the impact that that's had on football in general, and obviously from our own points of view as well. So it's going to be a good show. I've got some guests joining me as well. Otherwise, I'll get a bit lonely just talking to myself. So let's bring the guests in. First of all, of course, he doesn't really need an introduction. He's pretty much part of the furniture here. It's, of course, Melvin, back again. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, all right, thanks. I hope it's not antique furniture. I hope it's not antique.
No, of course not. It's been restored.
Thanks for having me on again, Richard. Looking forward to this one tonight.
Yeah, no, it should be good. It should be good. Thanks for joining us again. And again, someone else who has been on once before. Good to have him back. It is Jerome. Jerome, meet Melvin. I don't know if you know him, dear. And we've got a newcomer to the show actually, making his debut. So we must be gentle with him tonight. It's Scott from the Red Cannon. How you doing, Scott? You all right?
Good evening. How you doing, lads? Nice to meet you, and thank you for having me on. I'm hoping to put in a Ceballos against Burnley debut. That's the plan, anyway.
No, that'd be excellent. Yeah, definitely. You don't want
it's all downhill from there.
You don't want to step on us, Dave. That's for sure.
See you in 6 months then.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but so no, it's going to be a good show tonight. I'm sure we'll have some fun as well. And I say there's a few things to talk about, as there usually is with Arsenal. Of course, as we know, over the years we're kind of used to it now, aren't we? It's never boring. Let's put it that way. Apart from sometimes with football, but everything else is never boring, is it? So anyway, this is the panel, and this is going to be the latest Positive podcast. So as I said there, please like and subscribe and comment in as well if you want to join in with the show. First of all, I just really want to look back on sort of Sunday's game against Sheffield United. Really, the big question I really wanted to kind of put to you guys is how significant or how much of a bearing do you think that first of all the team lineup and also the performance and the result is going to have on Thursday? For me personally, I feel very little to nothing, but I guess there's going to be some things we can take from it. I mean, what are you thinking, Melvin? Do you think that there's much we can look at from Sunday to Thursday and think, is there anything there that might be significant, or is it just that game was just on its own and we now focus on a completely different game on Thursday?
That game's by itself, makes no difference at all. I don't think a lot of players will play in both games. The mindset would be different. The pressure would be different. It's like can be two games from 2 different seasons. No difference at all. The lineup's going to, as I say, going to be different. The tactics have got to be different. And the mentality will be different. So, no, I just think they're poles apart, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking. But having said that, I suppose a 3-0 victory is a confidence boost, if nothing else. Obviously, 2 goals for Lacazette as well, both well taken. So I don't know whether that might help if he gets a similar opportunity to last week on Thursday. Maybe now in his mind he's thinking how confident he might finish it this time. Whereas, obviously last week he missed it. So I don't know whether that might be a positive we can look to possibly. I mean, what about yourself, Jerome? What are you thinking about, do you think there's much significance to base on Sunday? It was a good performance, let's be fair, and it was a good result, but does it make any difference, you feel, for Thursday now?
I don't think so. I mean, the game itself, I don't think you can sort of draw too many conclusions from it. I guess it's helped, you'd rather go into the Slavia Prague game off the back of a win rather than going straight from the first Slavia Prague game to the second one. So you can look at that as a positive. But yeah, like Melvin said, I don't think it's going to make too much difference once the whistle goes on Thursday night. Sunday's game will be like a distant memory. It won't even be in the minds at all. So the only difference it might make is if it's given the manager some decisions in regards to his selection. But other than that, yeah, I don't think it's going to sort of make too much difference, to be honest.
Do you think it has? Do you think there's any? What sort of selection issues do you think that Arteta might have now ahead of Thursday following Sunday's performance? There was a few good performances on Sunday, to be fair, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Martinelli's got to be in with a shout of starting. Depending on what's happened with Aubameyang, it'll be hard to drop Lacazette after he scored a couple of goals. But from game to game, there's so many changes. It's just hard to second guess Arteta really with the team he's going to put out. And obviously, Xhaka was a big shout playing at left back. So whether he's looked at that and thought I'll go with that again, there's just so many decisions that he can make. Arteta. It's going to be hard to guess his lineup for Thursday.
Just to add to one player, Jerome Murray. I think he's good for a shout.
Yeah,
he's another player.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, my only concern is that I know we kept a clean sheet on Sunday, but I don't feel as though Holding and Mari have been that great together when they've played. They've not been bad, but I just feel Gabriel and Holding seem to be a little bit better. I think David Luiz and Gabriel has been the best partnership. Obviously, he's out. Mari and Gabriel's never played together. He's got a few options, I guess. It's just what's going to at the end of the day, we need really to keep a clean sheet over there, don't we? And try and snatch a goal. So I think defensively, we're going to have to be spot on. And it's a tough decision to make because I thought Mari did well, and I think Mari on his own is a decent defender. But it's the partnerships, isn't it? I think that we need to look at, especially in the defence, because we've had so many different variations that will he stick with Holding and Mari possibly because they kept a clean sheet? But Gabriel's been his number one guy, hasn't he? Especially in the Europa League. So I've got a feeling he might come back in. I mean, Scott, what did you make of that Sunday then? Do you think that there's much to read into Thursday? Maybe, like we said, in terms of a few players that may have played themselves into the team possibly, or with a chance now of getting in the team, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious one was just discussed is Martinelli, which is, I don't think it really needed Sunday to play himself into the team for me. I would have had him in weeks ago. For whatever reason, that's not been the case. You're touching on Mari, and I've mentioned it recently, actually. I was actually I actually wanted him to play on Thursday. For me, although he hasn't developed a partnership with anyone at the back, but I don't think that's necessarily. It's just because he hasn't been given the minutes. I mean, I think was it the West Ham game? There was or was it Leicester? There was a game where he made a mistake with Xhaka. There's a bit of a communication error, but outside of that, I think he's been a solid signing. I think his issue is just staying fit, which has always been an issue with a number of our players, but. For me, I'm not taking anything from yesterday. I think I said to you on the fan cam the other day was that it was a bit of a hide into nothing, that game against Sheffield United, because if we drew or lost it was just going to be a meltdown amongst the fan base. Naturally, you're playing the team at the bottom of the league, and winning it. And I can sense it as well. We're all keeping, the knives are sort of been put away for now with some people, and everyone's kind of just sitting back and just biding their time. And unless we come out of a ridiculous win yesterday, sorry, not yesterday, it was I'm a day behind on Sunday. I don't think there was much you could take from it. But at the end of the day, momentum is key, confidence is huge, and Lacazette, obviously, let us down in the big games, which unfortunately has happened a lot in the previous game. But he got back on the score sheet yesterday, and if you want to take something from it, he's got his finishing boots back on. So hopefully that was a nice little precursor to what we're going to see Thursday. And for me, he should be playing Thursday. I think he gives more. When Aubameyang doesn't score, he doesn't do much for me. But when Laka doesn't score, there is more. He's got more to his game, certainly at the moment.
No, I totally agree. He's probably got more to his. He's obviously holds the ball up a lot better than Aubameyang. He can bring other people into the game as well. Shane's in the chat there. He says Martinelli has to start. Yes, I agree. Saka in number 10 was brilliant. He was. I know it's Sheffield United, but he was brilliant. And he would play Xhaka again at left back. I mean, that's quite an interesting one. I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, actually, because I do feel that Xhaka has been a key part of the midfield. When he's not played in midfield, we have looked poor in that area. Look at the Liverpool game, for example, and I know we was okay against Sheffield United in that particular area when he was at left back, but I think in the games he's missed generally, I think we've missed him in midfield. Now this is obviously going to be a completely different game to Sheffield United, so would it be a risk playing him at left, taking him out of midfield again, or do we, him and Partey in midfield, do seem to started I believe quite a good partnership, and it seems to be working reasonably well. What are the alternatives? I mean, Ceballos did play well on Sunday, but would we throw him back in to Slavia Prague in midfield, or would Xhaka go back in and Cedric at left back? What are you thinking there, Melvin? Because he did play well, Xhaka, didn't he, at left back?
I would play Xhaka at left back on the basis that he's more disciplined there. I think there's less chance for people to run behind him, like when they do it when he's in midfield and he's on the halfway line. Say, if he plays like a proper left back, like he has done, he's a lot better than, in my opinion, than he is when he plays in midfield and he gets lost. He gets drawn out of position very easily in midfield. And he hasn't got the speed to get back. So I'm quite happy for him to play left back, because mentally he knows he's got to work even harder, because he's not a natural left back, and I think that brings out the best of him. So I'm very happy to see him play at left back. Yeah.
No, I mean I kind of understand.
I won't put Ceballos on. Sorry, I won't put Ceballos on. I feel he played well, Ceballos, the other day, because he stayed in their half. He was doing some good things. If you're going to play him as a defensive midfielder, there's too many mistakes in him for me. We can't afford it. So no, I wouldn't.
Ceballos has almost knocked us out in 2 rounds, hasn't he? The last 2 rounds, he's had him. He's essentially So for me, I completely agree with you. I wouldn't have Ceballos anywhere near that lineup.
So what would we do then? Say if Xhaka is going to play left back, then who partners Partey? Would it be?
I'd put Maitland-Niles in. Oh, sorry, I can't do that.
Who?
Yeah, good game, didn't he, last night?
Who?
He did have a good game last night, actually. And no, I mean, that is an issue that we've got. I think we all understand that the midfield is the one area that we need to strengthen, certainly in terms of numbers, because, you take Xhaka out, we don't have a lot of other options. I don't think any of us trust Ceballos in that role if he's got to be more defensive. The only thing with Xhaka at left back, I feel is a slight issue is we've always attacked well down the left-hand side. The fullbacks get forward and put crosses in. Xhaka didn't do that at all on Sunday. He didn't need to. But against Slavia Prague, we need goals, and I feel as though the fullbacks are going to be quite important to get forward and get balls into the box. And Xhaka doesn't provide that at left back. I think defensively he's good. I think he's good with distribution of the ball in the defensive areas of the pitch. But I don't think he's not going to bomb forward and whip crosses in as Tierney does, or even Cedric does when he's played there. So I think he might well go with Cedric on the basis that he's going to give us more an attacking sense in the game, as opposed to Xhaka, who would probably be slightly more solid defensively, and then Xhaka goes into midfield. What are you thinking, Jerome, with that kind of, with the Xhaka situation? Where would you play him on Thursday?
God, if he wouldn't have played him left back on Sunday, we wouldn't even be talking about it.
No, we wouldn't. No.
It's only because he played him there the last game. I liked Xhaka at left back, but he didn't have any defending to do. If he's got to defend, I don't know Slavia. I don't know their team fantastically well. If they've got a quick right winger, then having Xhaka at left back isn't the best idea. So the trouble is, the alternative of Cedric at left back doesn't fill you with much confidence either.
Another area of the pitch, isn't it? That needs strengthening in terms of depth and cover. Definitely left back.
That's it. Yeah. I guess the safe option is to put Cedric there because he's played there more often, and I think that's what he'll do. I think he will play Cedric left back, and he'll just revert back to Xhaka and Partey in the middle. I mean, we're talking about all these different players in different positions, all the configurations of players, but whoever we put out there from the Slavia Prague game last, we should have enough to beat them, whatever we decide. If we decide to play Xhaka left back or Cedric left back, we should have enough to beat them.
Well, you would hope so, but they haven't lost at home all season. That's in the Champions League qualifiers, in the Europa League, obviously in their domestic league. I mean, Leicester couldn't beat them there. Rangers didn't beat them there. So I wouldn't necessarily say, we should have too much for them. We should have, but we didn't manage to beat them last week, even though we should have done. And who's to say? I mean, I agree. It's not necessarily about who plays where. It's the attitude of the team, because I thought that was poor last week, certainly for the first 60, 70 minutes. And if we come out with the right attitude from the start this week, we'll have a great chance. But if we don't, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, what are you thinking then, Scott, about Xhaka? Would you play him in midfield then?
I'm just a bit gutted. It's 2021 and we still rely on him so heavily. I mean, I think that says more about us than it does Xhaka. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, he's not. I don't think he's many people's ideal choice as our go-to guy. He's not our ideal choice as a potential captain, probably in some people. I mean, I don't know if you guys caught the behind the mic video that went out a couple of hours ago.
Yeah.
It's nice to see. It's nice to see that attitude's brilliant. I do question whether it's because he's, you know, they know the mics are there. They know that the social media team are doing it. But listen, for me, I think Xhaka will go back to his normal position. Arteta's very risk adverse. I would have been amazed if we get a similar formation or a similar setup in Thursday. I think he finds something he's reasonably comfortable with and then he tinkers, but he's not one for completely changing it. Not in my opinion. I didn't mind him back there. I think he was okay. He had a reasonable game. Some people I've spoken to, I was on a stream earlier today and it was mentioned, well, he done okay there, but think of the opposition. But at the end of the day, you've got to give him credit, because if you're asked to do a job in your not natural position and you don't make any massive mistakes, that's he is reliable. He's a bit of a utility man there. But I was a bit concerned. There was a time I was doing the watch along and I don't always digest it as well as probably people do when they're just watching it. But I'm sure there was a time I saw where he was the last defender. And as Sheffield broke, and I was like, "Whoa, that if he is going to play there, that cannot happen. He cannot be the last defender because he's just going to get done for pace." But I mean, it's an interesting one. It's given us food for thought. It's something to talk about. As I said before, I don't want to see Ceballos in the midfield. I think when the pressure's on, his game crumbles somewhat. For me, Xhaka. He'll be back in, and as I said at the beginning, is that we rely on him still so heavily, but he's not the player, and he's never going to be the player that elevates us to where we want to be, is he? But he may be enough to get us to where we need to be this season if all goes to plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I noticed from Sunday actually with Arteta in particular was he seemed to be trying a couple of different things as a trial. Maybe looking at different options for the games that matter a little bit more. Putting Saka in the number 10 role was an experiment because he's not played there before. Like we said,
I like that. I really like Saka being there.
I like that as well, and I thought he had a good game. And it's another option for that position. I think maybe Arteta was thinking that Emil Smith-Rowe and Odegaard are both carrying injuries. Are they either of them going to be fit for Thursday? Let's hope that at least one of them is. But if not, now at least we can think, well, Saka could go in there and do a decent job because he did, and he's got a little bit of experience playing in there. But I don't know whether or not he used that Sheffield United game a little bit just to try a few things and experiment a little bit, maybe with Thursday in mind possibly, and maybe he's got a few ideas from that he might be able to take into Thursday possibly in terms of the way we set up and playing players in maybe unfamiliar position, certainly unfamiliar to us. I mean, I'm assuming they play there in training and work on stuff before. I'm sure you didn't just throw them out there on Sunday and just say, there you go, just like at the end of the season when you pick a position out of a hat and that's where you're playing the last game of the season. I don't think he did that, but hopefully he's learned. Hopefully Arteta's learned a few things. I think we looked at that game maybe in a little bit and thought to ourselves, what's going on here when we saw the lineup, but maybe Arteta's learned from that. Learned a little bit more about certain players in certain positions, and hopefully we'll see the kind of benefits of that on Thursday. I mean, it's a big. Well, I say it's a big game. It's probably the biggest game the club's had for quite a while, isn't it? On Thursday now,
since Baku.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. And I think it's so important. And I just really want to know how confident we feel. I mean, what about you, Melvin? Are you pretty confident for Thursday, bearing in mind what we saw from Slavia last week and what we know we are capable of? We're not producing it regularly enough, but are you confident for Thursday that we can get the result that we need? Because we've got to score first of all, and that's without conceding anything. We have got to score a goal, haven't we?
Yeah, but I think that might work in our favour because I think there's doubt in the other team's mind. Do they attack us? Do they defend? They don't know what they may not know what to do. They can't. If they attack us, we get a goal with one. If they defend, it's the same thing. They can't play. I don't think this team, and a lot of teams are like that, perhaps us as well, they cannot play their natural game because it's a very funny situation to be in. They're half a goal up playing at home. So that I think is in our favour. I think their defence is quite poor, and it's to our detriment that we couldn't score against them. We should have scored a lot more, against them. We scored one goal. We should have had 3 or 4 easily. It was really poor our finishing. So I think there's unless their good defenders were out, but I thought their defence was absolutely shocking, and we couldn't do anything about it because we weren't playing football at first. Was it 30, 40? We were useless first half. We didn't realise how bad their defence was, so we never put them under pressure. Once we put them under pressure, start moving that ball about, they were struggling. They were really struggling, and they got that the superhero in goal. I mean, I don't know what he's like. I mean, he's got, I don't know if he's got wings or what, but I mean, I think I think he looked a bit suspect as well. I just think it's how. Listen, we should be good enough to beat them, but then again, you never know what Arsenal team's going to turn up. If we turn up with a bit of confidence and we've got the handbrake off and we're going for it and we know what we're doing and it's positive and everyone knows their job, yeah, of course we're going to beat them. But as I say, who's going to turn up? It's, we've got 3 different teams at the moment, haven't we? A, B and C. And hopefully the A team will turn up.
I mean, you say about their defence, and I agree, they didn't look that great defensively last week, but Leicester couldn't score past them in the 2 games. Rangers only scored 1, didn't they, in the 2 games as well? So I think defensively, their defensive record is really good, even though it didn't maybe come across necessarily that way. But we only scored 1 against them with all the chances. Yes, that was partly down to our poor finishing. But you've got to look at their record. Their defensive record has been great. And that's, for whatever reason, whether it can't just be luck all the time. Leicester didn't score in both games, did they? Leicester didn't score.
Yeah, you talk about records. We've allegedly got a very good defensive record, but I think we're a good defensive team. You look at our we were second a month or so ago, the second best defensive record in the division. And as I know, our defence has been poor. Not as bad as it has been over the last couple of years, but still not very good. So I don't think that's always the case.
No, maybe not necessarily, but I was just looking at the fact that Leicester, who have scored a lot of goals in the Premier League this season, are a good side in the top 3. They couldn't score in 2 games against them. So I think defensively, they must have something about them, especially at home, maybe. I think it's a bit different for them this time because previously they've been at home in the first leg where they probably kept it tight and hoped to get a goal in the away leg, which has worked. Yeah. This time they're at home second, and I think that their whole, as you said before, Melvin, their approach to the game is going to be a factor in how it goes as well. I mean, Jerome, are you pretty confident that we can do it on Thursday, or are you still a little bit? I've got to be honest, I'm a little bit worried. I'll be honest, I am. I'm not overly confident, but I agree with you. We should have the players to do it, but I don't know.
Yeah, same. I'm not massively confident, but what can give us a lot of hope is, although you mentioned those teams didn't score against them, is that we created so many chances, and especially when he brought Martinelli and Aubameyang on, and we sort of went for it a bit more, there was a massive difference. So I think a big factor will be what players he selects. The front 4 players. I think if he selects Willian, I think I don't think that's going to help our cause. But if he plays, I think if Martinelli plays, that'll be a big plus for us. I think he's got to play speed up front. You can maybe have Laka up front, but surround him with speed, and hopefully, hopefully Arteta will get into him before the game, pump him up a bit, and. And 1-1 is a very dangerous score. I don't know if I mentioned this before. Like when Arsenal played Chelsea in the Champions League, when they knocked us out, we went to their place, drew 1-1. We thought that was a good result, and then I think Wayne Bridge scored, knocked us out. And
don't talk to me. I forgot that.
I think what's important is with the lineup as well. Something to remember is it could potentially go to extra time. So if you start with Lacazette, bringing Aubameyang on when they're a bit tired, that might be something to consider as well.
But for it to go to extra time, we do need to score in 90 minutes.
It's only 1 goal. We don't have to score 5 goals. Just score 1 goal.
It's only one goal. And I know that doesn't seem a lot, but you know, it took us 86 minutes to score one last week when we had a lot of chances. So who knows? That's kind of worrying me a little bit. But I do think away from home, we have played better away from home all season actually, in Europe as well as in the Premier League. So that kind of is in our favour a little bit more, I suppose. We seem set up better away from home, don't we, to play on a counter attack and stuff like that. It's worked quite well in a lot of games. So we scored more goals away from home. So who knows? I mean, are you pretty confident, Scott, that we can get the job done on Thursday, or are you a bit more cautious, shall we say?
Well, I'm on the positive Arsenal channel, so I've got to say I win, haven't I? I can't go any other way. But look, you know, my mind is changing with the wind on this, and so I say Sunday didn't really make much of a difference. But as the game's getting closer, I'm feeling more confident because there's a couple of ways to look at it. I mean, first of all, we need to be prepared. This is not going to be the team we're going to be playing are not going to be the same team as the first leg. They are going to be stronger. I think there's a couple of players I've heard that are more first team players that are going to be back. They're going to be a different animal at home. And I was just quickly looking at the stats while you guys were talking there, and trying to be all flash. Look at me with stats, but I just pulled a couple up. They haven't lost a game in 21 games. So regardless of who you are, they're not used to losing games. So with that in mind, you know, they're not going to be, confidence is massive. But I think going into it in a weird sadistic kind of way, and Jerome mentioned about the 1-1 being a dangerous scoreline. It is dangerous from their perspective, and for the reasons you gave about Wayne Bridge, because in a weird way, and I think I might have said this to you the other night, Rich, it actually, don't get me wrong, I'd happily go in 1-0, right? So you'd obviously 1-0 clean sheet like the other night would have been perfect, right? Okay. But in a weird way, if we had won 1-0, we'd all be sitting there now talking, saying, what's Arteta going to do? Is he going to go for it? Is he going to sit on the 1-0 and then try and counter? And it opens up this what if, which way is he going to go? And that's a dangerous game, because if you take a 1-0 into the second leg and you play with this, well, you know, they've got to score and we'll just absorb. Sometimes you lose control of the game. You invariably can invite pressure, which you can then concede. And then sometimes that's too late for you to then swing the momentum and go the opposite direction. So in a weird way, the 1-1 does mean that we know what happens. We are out if we do not score one goal. That's it. So Arteta has to set up with that in mind, going, well, I know I need to get a goal. So he has to go with an attacking mindset. He has to set the guys up to attack. And that's where our Martinellis are going to come in. That's where we're going to need, you know, we're going to need Saka to be on it. We want to see a great party. Party looked pretty good at the weekend. But Arteta can go into that. And let's just say worst case scenario. Let me be pessimistic for a second. If we start the game and we do start off, you know, we're really going for it. And let's say something goes wrong. They score, they get a penalty, free kick, whatever it might be, corner. Not much changes for us. The only thing that changes is that we may have a long night. You know, strap yourself in. If you have 2 beers, get 4 beers. If you have 2 teas, it's going to be 4 teas. Strap yourself in because it could be going all night. So he's got to say to him before I go out, look, guys, this is what I think should happen. Let's just go for it. The first 20 minutes, let's just put a rocket right up them, right, and show them what we can do. Let's try and catch them off guard. And if in the first 20 minutes we're not making, you know, it's not going and the press isn't getting in there, okay, let's just reevaluate. We may catch them cold and get something very early on, and then they may panic because now they know they need a goal. But if we don't catch them, as something goes wrong and they get us on the counter attack, like I say, nothing's changed. We still only need 1 goal. It just may be that we have to take them to extra time. But one of the other stats, just briefly, what I just noticed as well, and I don't know if you guys caught this, and I've literally just read this for the first time. In the game on Thursday night, they actually had 10 shots to our 11, apparently. And that's news to me. They had 4 on target to our 2. And I had to double read this because I thought, am I looking at the wrong game? But no, you know, 2 shots on target in that game. And you think of how it felt as though we threw that game away. Ultimately, we got to be testing their goalkeeper. We got to be getting those shots on target and just be more clinical. And if we are clinical, we're going to win.
No, I totally agree with pretty much everything that you said there. And you're right about the fact that them scoring, as long as they only score 1, doesn't really change an awful lot in the sense that we've still got to score anyway. It just kind of, every time we're in this situation where we've got to go away from home and we've got to score a goal and win the game, whatever it is, it always reminds me of Anfield 89 because of what happened that night and the way that we had to go there and score 2 goals. And what George Graham did well that night was he told them you don't need to score early. You just need to score when you score, and then it puts them under pressure. And it's the same on Thursday for me. We don't have to score in the first 20 minutes. It'd be nice if we did, but we don't have to. What we have to do is keep ourselves in the game, keep it 0-0 if we have to, and grow into the game, and we will get chances. And then it's just a matter of sticking at least one of them away. And I hope we go more with that attitude rather than flying out the blocks and leaving ourselves a little bit too open. I think we need to be careful in how we approach the game, and maybe using Anfield 89 as a little bit of an example. Maybe we don't need to score early. We don't even need 2 goals on this particular game. We just need the 1 and not concede. So we don't have to get it in the first 10 minutes. We can get it in the last minute. Will do. That'd be quite nice, actually, wouldn't it? Winning 1.
No, it wouldn't, mate. No, I'm not subscribing to the last minute goal.
It'd be nice at the time it happens. It would be nice.
Of course it will. If you knew you were guaranteed it. Rich, the other thing is as well is I've always been. I'm interested to know you guys' thoughts on this. I've always been a very much I want the away leg first kind of man. Whenever the draws come out, I want the away leg, and then let's bring them back home and let's do the job at home. That's kind of what my mindset's always been. But actually, the more I've been thinking about this, I'm like, it's not bad being that away leg thing, because if you've got a very tight tie, we have the advantage, because when we get to 1-0, and there is a good chance that could happen, when we get to 1-0, the pressure's on them, not us. Yeah, we can concede, and we can go 2-1 down and not panic, because the second goal will put us through. If we get to 1-0, pressure's on them, not us.
No, exactly. I agree. And sometimes being away second can be an advantage if you haven't lost at home in the first leg, I suppose. I agree. Like you said, if even if they go 2-1 up, we don't need to panic, because in fact that's almost being a better position to them being 1-0 up, because 1 goal from us at 2-1 down puts us through, whereas it only would send it to extra time if it was 1-0. So no, I agree, but let's see. I don't want us to concede 2 goals though, because that would not do much.
The thing is though, Richard, you talk about scoring early. We'd love to score at any time, but the longer the game is 0-0, the more nervous they are going to get, because they're coming nearer mentally to where they've got to get to, and they still know that 1 goal and they're out. They're so close, yet so far away from getting to where they got to. So all of a sudden, a team like that will get very, very nervous at 0-0 with 10, 20 minutes to go. So that could work. I don't think it's necessary. Listen, I'd love to score any time, but I don't think it's that important to score in the first half. A bit like Anfield.
I agree. I definitely agree. I'm not bothered if we haven't. If it's 0-0 at half time, I won't be that bothered. I mean, I suppose it depends how the game's gone, how we've played. But overall, if it's 0-0 at half time, I'm thinking that's not too bad. Let's, now in the second half, maybe as the game goes on, we're going to have to, at some point, if it is 0-0 or we're 1-0 down, we are going to have to start taking a few more risks, making a few changes. And then we've had a few comments actually coming in. Mark there said, "Evening, guys. It's a nice new jacket." Yeah, it's a nice new jacket. 1984 jacket. So it's very nice. It's an early birthday present. So there you go, which is cool. Shane says, "Are fans back in the stadium over in Prague?" I don't believe they are they? So as far as I'm aware, they're not. There'll be no fans there Thursday, will there?
Well, it won't be as hostile as it normally is, even if there's a couple of fans sneak in.
No, I don't think they're officially allowed any fans either, are they? And
the only fans there will be electric fans. That's the only fans will be let in that stadium.
I don't think they'll need too many of them in this weather. And Terry says, "Good evening, everyone. Sorry I'm late. Would you mind starting from the beginning again?" It's like you can watch the beginning on catch up afterwards, Terry, so that's fine.
That's what the rewind button's for.
We've got a matinee performance tomorrow if he wants to come.
2:00. But you can always watch it from the start later on as well. But we're not going to start again now. But thanks for joining us anyway at some point. It's better than not joining us at all, so that's cool. I'll say it is a big game. It's a massive game, and it is going to be very tense, I'm sure. And knowing Arsenal, it's not going to be decided until either way, probably until very late on in proceedings. Maybe even all the way to extra time and penalties and what have you. But we're not going to win 5-0, are we? Let's put it that way, and we're not going to be comfortable.
When was the last time we lost on penalties? I was trying to think about this. Did we lose to Liverpool in the Carling Cup recently? We lost that one, didn't we?
I think the season before, I think we lost to them. When we played quite a strong team, and they played like they're under. They basically played their under 11s, and we still lost.
Our record in penalties is ridiculously good, and every time we win a penalty shootout, I think we're going to lose the next one. Law of averages says the last one I can remember was the Galatasaray final. I can't remember us losing on penalties in a significant game. So, you know,
you're probably right.
I'm not jinxing it. I'm just saying, law of averages says we're due a loss on penalties somewhere.
You jinxed it now, but no. You're right. I think that Galatasaray one probably is the last big game that's gone to penalties that we've lost. You know, we did lose that Liverpool League Cup game, as we said last year, but I don't think, you know, that wasn't that important, I guess, in the overall scheme of things. But yeah, we have got.
Was Bradford penalties? Did that go to penalties?
It was, yes. Bradford. Yeah,
Vertonghen missed. Did Vertonghen miss the last one?
Vertonghen?
In that game?
Vermaelen,
sorry. He missed it, didn't he?
Don't say Tottenham names on this channel.
Sorry about that. No, I've got soap over there. Wash my mouth out in a minute. Sorry.
No, it was. Yeah, we did. It was Vermaelen that missed it. I was at that game actually. We were terrible that night.
Richard, Craig went that night. Bradford. He was there. Yeah, lucky old chap.
It wasn't the greatest 2 hours of my life, but anyway. So there you go. Gervinho actually missed an open goal, didn't he? From what I remember.
He slid in. He missed a few of those.
I think Ramsey was playing right wing, wasn't he, as well? There were some strange decisions going on at that point for Arsenal. But anyway, hopefully, you know, those days are behind us. But every time I think they are, they seem to sneak back in again, don't they? And, more days like that. But anyway, I mean, before we finish later on, I do want to come back maybe to Thursday to get some sort of lineups and predictions done. But I do want to move on to sort of the other topic really of tonight, which is, you know, the fact that it's been over a year now that there's been no fans in. Well, briefly, there was a couple of thousand, weren't there, sort of towards back end of last year. But overall, it's been about a year with no fans in. And the impact that sort of had, not just on Arsenal, but on football in general. And how the sport for me has changed over the last year in the way, maybe because every game's on telly now, so the coverage on telly's changed. I think that the game, when you watch it, is changed, and whether that's because the atmosphere is different in the stadiums. And it's kind of got me, obviously, we're hoping, aren't we, that fans are going to be back in properly next season. But the League Cup final, actually, is it next week? They've got fans in, haven't they? 8,000 or something like that, which is going to be the biggest crowd that they've been since all this started. So I think we can start to think that maybe we might be back in the stadiums. But I'm just really interested to know what you guys have made of this last year with no fans. What you think the impact it's been on the game in general, not just Arsenal and not just our own individual point of view, but the game in general. How has it impacted on the game, and what differences do you think? Well, for me, like, for example, I think the way they've messed about with VAR, I don't think that would have happened with fans in the stadium because of the reaction it would have brought from the fans. I think that managers have kept their jobs longer because there isn't the pressure from the fans in the stadium. So I think there's been lots of other things outside of the actual game on the pitch itself that maybe not having fans in has meant that almost as though the authorities and the TV companies have thought, well, we can actually do whatever we like and nobody can really, there's no backlash because fans aren't there. And that, I kind of feel that that's happened a little bit. And is it just me that feels that? That's why I was quite interested to have a discussion about it, really. I mean, what are you thinking, Melvin? What kind of impact do you think this has had on football, apart from the financial aspect, which we know, sort of beyond that and sort of around that? What other sort of big impacts do you think it's had?
I think you're right about the VAR. I think also certain players can't pretend they can't hear the coaches shouting from the touch lines. They're actually, sorry, I didn't hear that one. I think it's impacted a few clubs like Sheffield United, detrimental to them, obviously. I think it's got the other way, not just this reason, but West Ham, but a fabulous season. Not just because the crowd ain't on their back, it's because they've got made some decent signings and they're playing as a team. But the last couple of years, it's been nearly toxic at West Ham, the London Stadium, like it's been at the Emirates. And I think that's been a relief for the players, to play with the handbrake off. I think that also, I don't think the game is intense as it will be with the crowd. The crowd obviously lifts certain players, and I think you're missing that. I'm not saying they're slow, the footballers, but I don't think you got that little bit of intensity. It's not there anymore. I think that's missing. And I think that the whole thing is. I mean, I've only played, park football, and basically, if I ever played in front of a big crowd and then played park football again, I'd notice a difference big time. And I think I played slightly differently, and it must have an impact on these players as well. I think that what would be interesting, which is when the fans come back and there is a little bit of shout and screaming and what have you, how the players would react then. It might be totally different the way they play than they used to play. Because let's face it, they're going to be like fish out of water. It's all of a sudden the ball's at their feet and they hear the old woo like that, away from home. Yeah. It might actually affect some players differently to others. So that'd be quite interesting.
Well, what do you think about the kind of the way that football's being run, the sport's being run? Do you think that some of these kind of changes that they've made, do you think they've been able to get away with it almost because there's no fans? They haven't got a backlash, have they, from it? They get social media backlash. It's the same, is it? Do you think that's been an issue or not really?
They have got away with it on certain things, yeah, but not just because of what they've done with VAR. I think football, full stop, has got away with it. They've had rules, football, that no other sport or no other industry would ever have. If football was, like, for example, let's face it, you can't go into a football ground, right? But all these players can play, they can slide tackle, they can do what they like next to each other, but you can't have more than 6 people in your garden. You know what I mean? All these things like that. Like, I know there's lots of things you can say are stupid, and that's one of them. Yeah. Things like that. It really makes, let's put it this way. If football didn't have Sky, that's to say there's no money in football. It's basically as it was in the 80s, 90s and what have you. Football would not be played now. No way. No. They would not be playing football now. And that's wrong. It's just a bottom line money with football. Nothing to do with worried about people's health or whatever. And then let's face it, a lot of players now are playing too many games at a short period of time. No one's worried about that when they should be. There's, there could be some big injuries come at the end of the season now. If they haven't had a break, some of them, and you're going to get a lot of pulls and tears, and you're going, why did that happen? Well, we know why that's happening. Euros coming up. The players, no one's looking after the players. No one's looking after them. They're looking after the bottom line, and that is bad, I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. That's a big problem. It's
bad, but it is bad. But as fans, like could you imagine if there wasn't any football being played now? If there were the last year, there was no football. Like,
do you remember at the beginning of the lockdown, when the virus first kicked in? Well, when Arteta obviously got ill, and then it went. What do we have? Was it like 2.5 months or something?
Yeah, it was a few months.
No sport, because a lot of people that like football generally have other sports. Like my dad likes cricket and rugby. I like darts and snooker. Everyone has a few sports they enjoy. We had nothing. You imagine that for the last 18 months.
Yeah, but what I noticed was, which was quite good actually, they did start showing a lot of old matches, didn't they, on the TV? Highlights from old games from the 1960s and 70s and 80s and stuff like that. I quite enjoyed that. It was a nice trip down memory lane. So actually, for me, I looked at some of the games in the Premier League before lockdown, and then you had to suffer them, and then you suddenly watch all these old games, and you think, actually, I preferred that. So I didn't mind missing it so much because you could watch them old games all the time on a loop almost, and it was great.
I was upset. I was upset with Ladbrokes. I was upset with because I kept phoning them up. They wouldn't take my bets on those games in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, the 1979 FA Cup final. I'm going 3-2 Arsenal. I want £1,000. But it was good to see them games again, wasn't it? Because some of them highlights hadn't seen them for years, and even games that didn't involve Arsenal, I just enjoyed watching it. It was just nice to see, and even that stuff that Gary Lineker did when they did the top 10 and all this that. Now, but they were quite good as well, I thought, through the sort of lockdown. So it was, yes, I think we all missed live football and we all missed the sports and stuff, as you said there, Scott. But it also gave us maybe an opportunity to maybe reflect a little bit more.
We had to spend time with family, didn't we? We had to actually mingle and play board games and go out and see the world, didn't we? I mean, it was probably required. It was probably needed for some people, definitely. But I'm quite happy to keep my live sport if I can.
Yeah, no, I am as well. But what I noticed was actually that it was quite nice for a short period of time not to have to live your life around the kickoff times of Arsenal games.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to plan your life around, well, when are Arsenal kicking off? Well, we can't go out at this time because Arsenal's kicking off. So,
but you know what it is, Richard? Like you mentioned that, and I think I was saying this on one of my streams yesterday, also with somebody, that a lot of us probably aren't quite ready. That as of Friday, so if all goes tits up on Thursday night, we are basically going to have one game a week next season because we never go deep in the Carabao Cup, really. We'll put the kids out. So we'll have 2, maybe 3 games on that best case scenario where you got 2 games a week. Then we're going to wait through till mid-January for the FA Cup to start, and there's no guarantees you're going to go deep in that. So that when you're thinking of your life, I mean, and you, by the sounds of it, you're very much like me. The missus says to me, "Oh, should we go down? My stepmom's got, my mother-in-law's got a caravan. Oh, do you want to go down the caravan next weekend?" And I'm like, "Hang on, no, we can't. What about international break? Can I interest you in international break?" And then it's the same on a Wednesday. "Oh, do you want to go to cinema? Or can we go Tuesday? Because we're not in Champions League anymore. I'm busy Thursdays." That's going to have like an impact, because the weeks when you have a bad result and you've got to, say you get smashed up at 12 o'clock Saturday, right? We got to sit there, talk about it, be miserable all week. And then we might not play till like the Monday week. You got 9 days to sit on an awful result. So, that's, I don't think everyone's quite got their head round of how boring next season could be.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point, actually, because I think we've been used to for 25
life
in Europe. So we've got used to it, haven't we? Having midweeks and stuff like that. And maybe without that, it's what will we do? We'll have to actually do something else during the week. But let's just hope that we're allowed to do other things. Like the cinemas are open still, and pubs are open and stuff like that. So at least we'll have something to do rather than sitting at home doing nothing, which would be worse, wouldn't it? But yeah, that's a good point, actually, because I think we're all taking.
You're not used to it. I mean, you guys are obviously a slightly different generation to me. So I genuinely don't remember us not playing in Europe. Like what 90? When 90? I remember Naeem and I remember the Cup Winners' Cup. That's about as far as I can remember back as a kid.
Before that, in Europe as well. The year before that, we won it, didn't we?
We won it in '94. We won it in '94 with Smith, and then I was a bit young. I don't remember much before then. But like I say, growing up, I'm used to playing twice a week. That's it.
There was a ban on English clubs in Europe, wasn't there, in the 1980s, mid 1980s? So there was no European football. Now, what I found was then that we tended to throw all our efforts into the cups. So we tended to have 2 good cup runs. So it kind of kept the season bubbling over. We'd do well in the League Cup, and then we'd have a good run in the FA Cup. And it kind of filled the gaps a little bit. And I think if we're not in Europe next season, there's no reason for Arteta to play an inexperienced team in the League Cup, is there? Throw the first team in, because we ain't got nothing else. Yeah. Throw the first team into the FA Cup game. Just try and win them both. Yeah. But maybe that's what we'll do, and it might push the season on. We might have a few more midweek games as well. I don't know. But that seemed to be what happened in the 80s. There was a few seasons, obviously, in the 80s where we was out of the League Cup straight away, we're out of the FA Cup straight away. And from like January to May, you're literally just playing on a Saturday, boring league games that didn't mean anything. But for some reason, I quite enjoyed that. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was young and it felt fun. I'm not sure, but I don't think we can handle it now because of the way that football's changed, I suppose, maybe, and it would be different.
You think about it midweek. I mean, obviously, we've got social media now. You wouldn't have had it back then, but you're going to get all the banter, aren't you, Tuesday night? Because we still get it now, like when the Champions League draw's done, who Arsenal haven't got. We're going to be getting bantered on the Europa League. When the Europa League draw is going to be coming out, we're going to get it on that day saying, not Arsenal, and... I mean, hopefully that's not going to be the case, but I mean, there's a good chance, and it's.
There is a good chance. Like you said, maybe Friday we might be waking up to that reality, possibly. And we'll have to start getting used to it, really, I suppose. There's been a couple of comments about the fans there. Shane says, "Do you think that when fans return to the Emirates, they might create a better atmosphere, realising what missed to make the most?" Have been at games, yeah, possibly, but I'm not sure if that will last very long.
One game.
Shaking your head there.
Richard, if those fans were there a few months ago, Arteta would have been out of the job.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I do feel that there will be a different atmosphere, certainly in the first few games, and I think as soon as we lose, then it will start up again, all the negativity probably from before. I don't think it will last very long. That the kind of, it's like a new bounce in a way, isn't it? I think everyone's going to be excited. Everyone's going to, create a good atmosphere for the first couple of games, and then I fear, unless we're winning and doing well, that it will soon turn again and it will go back to what it was like before, unfortunately. But maybe that's what it needs, because if we want to get the club to change, the owners, and change the way the club's run, maybe it needs something like fan reaction for things to change, because otherwise, the clubs will just plod along. And that's why no managers have got sacked this year. Well, hardly any, have they? And I think not having fans, that's been probably the biggest impact in a way, hasn't it? With, I mean, how many managers have been sacked this season? 2 or 3? Maybe Lampard, the guy at West Brom, Bilic, Sheffield United, and that's it. Is it just
Wilder?
Yeah. Wilder actually didn't get sacked because of his football. It was something else. It was a political thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, which may have happened anyway, I guess. But yeah, no, that's true. Actually. But there hasn't been many, has there? Usually by this point in the season, it'd have been half the Premier League would have changed their manager, wouldn't they? You know, Fulham would have probably changed their manager when they were really struggling.
It's quite nice though. Do you not think it is nice?
Yeah.
I find it a little bit boring. Do you remember we had the cycle of the Mark Hughes goes here, and then the Sam Allardyce goes there, and then the Roy Hodgson, and they just once they've done the rounds, once they've done them all, and then they go away for a while. Like you have that merry-go-round. They call it the merry-go-round, don't they? It's just a bit tedious after a while. I'm not saying some managers don't deserve to be sacked, but I mean, David Moyes was under a lot of pressure a little while ago, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was. And obviously, I mean, Arteta was under massive pressure before Christmas, wasn't he? I don't think he's completely away from that pressure yet either, because if we're out of Europe, like we said on Thursday, then you have to wonder how much longer he's got at the club, you know, and certainly when fans are back. But, you know, we'll have to see, I suppose, what happens there. James in the chat there, evening, guys. Evening, James, thanks for watching. And he says their fans will be a huge help to us. Well, I hope they are. I just worry that fans haven't always been a big help, have they, to us necessarily at the Emirates, certainly in the last few years.
I've just
I think it would be great to
sorry,
have
Richard. I was just looking at the stats here because I've been meaning to check this. So I found a website. I don't know. I've not used this website before, so I can't guarantee this is accurate, but it looks pretty accurate. So the home win percentage has dropped. So I've looked. I didn't look at last year because obviously we had the pandemic mid-season. So the last full season pre-COVID, home win ratio was 48%, and this season, as it stands, we're at 37%. That's an 11% drop in home wins. So is that the players, or do we think that perhaps this is the referees? The referees aren't, because they are influenced, aren't they? They are. You know, how hard was it to get a penalty at Old Trafford and Anfield, and it always has been.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, I don't think it's no coincidence that the win, you know, the home win ratio has dropped because fans aren't there. It's got to be a mixture between the players and refs.
I've got one for you, Scott. I haven't looked it up, but what's the ratio of red and yellow cards, home and away teams? I bet that's changed.
Yeah.
I reckon that's changed.
I might be able to find it on here. Give me one moment while we're talking, and I'll have to find it. But yeah,
because the crowd do get players booked, don't they? In all fairness.
Yeah.
No, they do. Yeah, definitely. I think the fans influence referees anyway, don't they? I think they always have done.
Subliminally, the referee won't know it's even being done to him, but it is influenced.
Yeah, of course.
There's so many.
Yeah. Now go on, Jerome. Yeah.
I was going to say, like, it's probably ones that you won't even be able to look up because it's just like little free kicks that get given. Like the red cards now are all checked by VAR, so there might not have been a massive difference in terms of red cards, but it's just, a foul here, a foul there, and they all add up. And it can lead to something, it might lead, 10 passes later to a goal or something. So, yeah.
No, I agree. It's going to be a lot of things that aren't necessarily, statistics won't necessarily show either way, but there's definitely no doubt that fans have influenced referees. As Scott said there, with at Anfield, at Old Trafford and places like that. It's always been, even at Highbury, when we was at Highbury, I felt that the fans had an influence on referees. I know we always used to feel that things went against us, but in reality, I think at Highbury, we probably got a lot of decisions that we wouldn't have got elsewhere for that same reason. And I do think that has probably been one of the other real big aspects of it, actually. Although Man United have probably got more penalties since no fans have been in the ground than they did before, haven't they? They seem to have a lot more penalties.
But that's the anomaly, isn't it? Because United were buying penalties decades ago, and now suddenly they're yeah. But have you noticed, just on a quick change of subject, have you noticed, was it Klopp that came out and made a bit of a media thing about the Man United game, about the fact they were getting penalties, and then suddenly it's dropped off? They haven't had a penalty per game to the point where Solskjaer's had to come out and say, oh, we're not getting our penalties now because someone's made, oh, I'm sorry, heart bleeds over here. You're one guaranteed penalty per game. It's very interesting.
No, that's the point, actually, because again, you see, that comes down to influence, doesn't it? And usually the fans would have been influencing those decisions in the stadium, whereas now, because it isn't happening, maybe it takes a manager like Klopp or somebody else to maybe make a point, and then it kind of does influence the decisions and influences things going forward. And it's happened before with Klopp was another one actually who mentioned about the kickoff time, didn't he, and the schedule of the fixtures as well. And Liverpool have not had to go through similar issues again because he made a point of it. And sometimes that's what you've got to do. And fans, maybe without realising it, sometimes I think fans maybe have more influence on those things than they think, just by the reaction in the stadium. Referees don't want 60,000 fans on their back. They just don't. And now they haven't got to worry. They can give decisions whatever they like. They know VAR is going to back them up anyway, and they're not getting the fans that kind of atmosphere in the crowd. And I do think that has influenced a lot of the decisions that's been made, especially with VAR as well. I know VAR did start before the lockdown when there were fans in the stadium, but it had only just been going, hadn't it? It was very new, and I think everybody was a little bit like, well, let's see how it goes. But since Project Restart, if you like, which was sort of last summer, you can see how much it's got out of control. And it's got out of control because nothing said the fans would have reeled that in, I think, quite quickly. They wouldn't have put up with it.
We don't know the rules, do we? I mean, I don't know. I don't think I genuinely know. It used to be the joke. You couldn't tell you couldn't teach the missus or the mister or whoever what the offside rule is. I genuinely would struggle myself to say I 100% know what the offside rule is. And a handball. I've got no idea about handball anymore. Is it different in the Champions League? I don't know.
Handball. That's all I know. The goalkeeper's allowed to handball it. That's about as far as I know.
And something to do with the shirt line, wasn't it? So you wear long sleeves and then you can go right down to the wrist. It's just...
Yeah, well,
I thought, Scott, with handball, it's got to do sometimes what badge you're wearing. All right?
Yeah,
that's the easiest way I can describe it to you. Sorry,
it is, and that there, Melvin, you're completely right. This is where. I mean, we're talking about managers influencing referees. Fergie made a career off it. Let's have it right. Fergie was winning games in the media before they turned up on the pitch. These referees and VAR and everything else, they're all influenced. They are so easily influenced. But they are. I mean, they've got to get a grip. They've got to get it now down.
Yeah, I mean, the fans are a big influence as well, and that's a big aspect of it as well. I mean, Alan's in the chat. He's a Leeds fan. He said it'd be interesting to know if any side's home form is better than the norm rather than worse. That's a good point. It seems to have affected everybody. No, that's a good point actually. I wonder if any teams have actually have got a better home record with no fans than they did before. Because on the top of my head, I can't think of anybody. Liverpool's obviously is a lot worse. I think ours is a lot worse.
West Ham. They got a better one. West Ham must have a better home record, surely. Yeah,
maybe West Ham could possibly be.
I think Leicester did up until a point, but they've just collapsed, haven't they?
Leicester have been better away from home this season, haven't they? I think they've only lost twice away. So Leicester's home form hasn't been better than before. I mean, off the top of my head, West Ham's maybe one. Yeah, that's possibly. I can't think of too many others, though, actually. I mean, obviously, Alan might know Leeds. I mean, I know Leeds were in the Championship maybe before, so it's perhaps difficult to judge. But I mean, Leeds' home form hasn't necessarily been too bad, has it? I don't think. Compared to some other clubs. I mean, we really struggled at home. Liverpool have really struggled at home, haven't they? Even Man United are a lot better away. They haven't lost away all season, have they, actually? At Man United. And at home, they've had a few defeats. So,
but this is, Richard, this is the knock-on effect, isn't it? Is it that people's home form is dropping off, or is it that just the away teams are performing better because they don't have that home crowd against them? They're getting the small decisions, like Jerome mentioned as well, like the little decisions that then sometimes break the play. Because as I say, that stat, if correct, what I've pulled up earlier, 11%, that's massive. That's a massive difference. So it might not be the home teams are performing worse. It's just that the away teams are getting a better rub of the green than what they're normally used to seeing.
And they're not getting a hostile atmosphere as well, as you said. Yeah. That probably plays a part. Because there'll probably be some teams that have turned up at, say, Anfield or have turned up at Old Trafford. And like you said before, they've maybe been beaten before they've started the game because of the crowd and because of everything else. Whereas now, they probably go there feeling they're equal to the other teams. And maybe that could be the reason as well. So we'll see. Luca is in the chat as well. How you doing, Luca? We're all doing pretty well. Russ as well. How you doing, Russ? Thanks for tuning in. Terry says England are losing 1-0 to Canada. That's the women, of course, playing Canada tonight, aren't they? Losing 1-0, which is a bit of a shame. But hopefully I can turn that around. Gary's in the chat as well. How you doing, Gary? He says good evening, Richard. Jerome, how you doing, Melvin? And Lucas says, help Richard to 500. Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? If I get to 500,
I've got it on the screen. I don't know if you guys can see because you've got me on small, but I'm asking people to like the video on the little box in front of me. So, do my bit.
Oh yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thanks. If you want to subscribe as well, that would be great. I did get past 400 about a week or so ago, and I think we've got stuck a little bit since then. But I haven't done as many kind of shows just because I've had a lot of other stuff going on actually. Luke is not very confident about Thursday. He reckons it'll be 2-0 to Slavia. Which I suppose that's possible. Who knows? Russ says he's going to be positive, say a 1-0 loss. Well, that's not very positive, is it?
That's positive.
It's more positive than sad a 3-0 loss, isn't it?
It's more positive than Lucas 2-0.
Relative.
Wasn't very positive though, was it? And Shane says Celtic and Liverpool missed the fans most. West Ham and Villa better. Yeah, but even Aston Villa have been better away from home. I'm sure Villa have won more games away than they've won at home. I'm sure they have. I think they're another team that's got a decent away record. Certainly clean sheets and stuff like that. Russ says, can you ask Scott how he does his graphics? Is it through OBS? Is that what you use?
Do you know what it is? This is a standing joke I've got with Russ. He comes every time he sees me. He's been on a few of my streams because what it stemmed from is I was doing a press conference reaction video. I think it was last week, and I came on, and because obviously I'm still quite new, aren't I? So I don't get too many people watching. And I went through the press conference, gave all my thoughts, dug into it, and no one was really watching. And then just as I finished, a load of people come in, and I was like, "Oh, sorry guys, you've kind of come a little bit late." And I didn't want to repeat myself. And somebody mentioned my graphics, and then I said, "Oh, do you know what it is?" And I started mentioning it. I do get a lot of messages on Twitter, like people message me and go, "Oh, hi Scott, like how do you do it?" And blah blah blah. And I was just mentioning the fact that a lot of it is because I've used Photoshop a lot of my life, so I've got experience with it, and it's not something you can just give. You just kind of have to have that experience. Yeah. And I was starting to go. I went about 10 minutes on about this. I was on a bit of a rant. So Russ, every time he sees me now, just to wind me up, he just says, "Oh, how'd you do your graphics?" Because he knows I get it every day. So it's a standing joke there. But yeah, you're right, Richard. It is a combination of Photoshop, After Effects, which is what does the motion, and then obviously OBS ties it all in. But yeah, I mean, it's all doable. You just got to take time to learn it. I mean, I didn't know anything about OBS up until I never heard of it at Christmas. But YouTube tutorials are out there if people want to learn. It just takes time.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I've learned a lot of different stuff actually since I've had my channel that I've never thought I'd be able to do previously. So it is a matter of taking the time and learning a few bits and pieces as well. I mean, I've still got a lot of other new things to learn, and I'd like my sales to look like yours actually. And I'm sure one day I might get around to figuring it all out.
Listen, just reach out to me, mate. Honestly, if you need a hand, I've had people basically message me and just ask me to give it to them. Like, can you just do one for me? Or put it in context. The studio, if you want to call it, like the background with the wall and everything, that took me like about 6 weeks, probably about 300 hours of work, because I'm not a professional. What would take a professional an hour would take me a day. So I love to do it for other people, but I just don't have the time. So
Why hasn't Russ asked me how I do my graphics?
Yeah, Russ, come on.
I'll be consistent.
Look at this, state of the art.
It's a nice curtain, actually, Jerome.
Yeah, yeah, silk.
Maybe we should have a poll. What do people prefer, Jerome's background or Scott's background? What's going to get?
No, because I'll lose that poll, and then I'll be closing the channel down. I'll be like, "You're kidding me!" Amount of hours. All I needed was a curtain.
Imagine if that was the case. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Here we go.
People would to banner me. They will to banner me. It's absolutely fine.
Says, Jerome, where did you buy your curtains from? There you
custom.
Go.
They're custom made. These are
custom made. There you go. Brilliant. So, unfortunately, you can't get Scott's background and you can't get Jerome's curtain. So I don't know what
exclusive club.
You can buy the shirts in my background if you want to buy them, because you can. The Arsenal direct shop. So,
I got my background from Dulux.
Well, actually, you could do a lot with that because it's a plain wall. You could actually do a lot with that. I haven't got any plain walls in my house. I find it difficult to do stuff on. You need plain backgrounds that you can use, virtual backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. It's quite difficult.
Just needs to paint it green. That's all you need to do. A big green square behind you. If you get the missus to sign off on it, and away you go.
Yeah, paint it. Yeah, but unfortunately, I think I'd get in trouble painting one bit of me wall.
I can't afford the divorce boys, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's too much to ask, that is. So he says, "Yeah, Melvin, just noticed that you've paid your electricity bill because
Well,
he could see tonight because
I
obviously
found sixpence in the meter. Got the old sixpence in the meter. No problem tonight.
Yeah, no, that was quite funny the other night.
Did you forget to put the money in the meter? Did you?
The lights went out, didn't they, Melvin? The lights went out.
All the lights went out. Yeah, it's weird.
No.
Very spooky. Very spooky.
Very spooky. It was very spooky. And Russ says he's got more chance. I've got more chance of getting the curtains. Well, he did mean curtains. He spelled it properly there. Maybe you need lessons in English as well. But, Gary in the chat says, Russ, tell us about the goalkeeping situation at Arsenal. It's been a while. Yeah, Russ does like the Martinelli and Leno situation. Mark in the chat there says 2-1 to Arsenal after extra time. Uber comes on and bags a winner. Well, there you go. That's that's the Disney script, that one, Mark. I'm not quite sure if that's how football really works generally, but you never know.
I don't care if Leno scores from a corner.
You know who's, guys, if you haven't figured this out, right? You know who's going to score the winner? It's going to be Willian, isn't it? And then Arteta's going to put him up like Simba on the Lion King and be like, I've delivered you this legendary Brazilian attacking player. He gets 1 goal per season.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be a total surprise, would it, if Willian turns up and gets the winning goal? From my point of view, actually, I would love Granit Xhaka to score the winning goal, not only in the game on Thursday, but in the final as well, because I think he gets a lot of stick. And I quite like him, and I want him to get the winning goal just because it'll be nice, and he can do a nice little celebration, and it'll be fun.
He'll do this. He'll give it that when he scores.
Well, he might do, yeah. Well, he will if there was fans in the ground, but there won't be, will there? So he probably won't do. But
the problem is, if he tries to do that, Xhaka, he might miss his head when he tries to do that. That's the only thing.
Well, he might do, yeah. But anyway, we'll see. And Russ says, Willian in the final. Yeah, he will probably score the winner in the final without a shadow of a doubt.
Willian would play the final. If we get there, I think Willian would definitely start the final because of experience. I think Arteta would go with players that have got the experience and can hold their nerve if we get that far.
Possibly.
Like we like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, you said it before. I mean, he doesn't like taking risks, Arteta, does he? So he's going to go with a tried and tested people if we get to the final, which he will probably on Thursday as well, I would have thought. Gary says, Disney script would be Willian gets a hat trick all in 5 minutes. Well, yeah, that would be that would beat
Kanu's record. What did Kanu do? Was it 7 minutes? Was it 7 minutes at Stamford Bridge?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that was good. That in the rain, that was a good day actually. But no, I think that's even a little bit far fetched for Disney, that, isn't it? Willian getting a hat trick in 5. It takes him 5 minutes just to realise he's got the ball, let alone score a hat trick in 5 minutes. But anyway. We'll see what happens, I suppose. Shane's got a question for us there saying, can you explain to me why the cannon is now faced in the opposite direction? Well, yeah, that's an interesting point, actually, isn't it? Because the crest changed in, was it 2002, wasn't it, when they brought the new crest out and they, for some unknown reason, turned the cannon around. I don't actually know why they did that. Do you know why, Melvin? Was there any...
No, I don't know why.
Was it just because they thought it looked better commercially, or... I don't know.
I think the artist didn't realise he was looking into a mirror. I don't know why.
Yeah,
that might be the reason. I mean, I've never quite
understood. No reason for it. No reason for it.
The only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is that in the West we read from left to right, don't we? So the back of the cannon arguably would be the first thing you would see. So from left to right. That's the only logic I could think of.
Course,
because the font, obviously, Arsenal was written from left to right, isn't it?
That was a little bit deep, wasn't it? That was
deep and heavy for me. That one.
Maybe that was the reason. I don't know.
I've got an easier one for you, Scott. What's the meaning of life?
Well, I'll tell you the meaning of life is no spoilers, but I'm going to give you a spoiler. Bayern Munich had just scored, and that must be the meaning of life: scoring goals in big Champions League games. Forgot what that feels like.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to find out anytime soon, I don't think either. Have you got any idea, Jerome, why the cannon got changed around?
Nah, not a clue. No idea.
But it is
homework,
kind of
it's homework, guys, for next week.
Yeah, no, I think we need to find out. I mean, there is kind of rumours that they might be replacing it with the old style kind of canon in the future shirts. Might now Adidas are involved because obviously Adidas were obviously in the 1980s, weren't they? When we won the league at Anfield and stuff, they were the kit manufacturers then, weren't they? So I don't know whether or not they're having an influence, but there has been kind of rumours that maybe it might be going back to, obviously, as it's on my top, actually, where is it there, isn't it? Wherever it is on the top, the camera's back to front, it's there. So that's the right way around, that's how it should be. But they did change it for some unknown reason. So it must be nearly 20 years ago now, actually, since they brought the new badge out, which I don't know why. But anyway, I think it's more of a commercial decision because they maybe felt it looked better on social media and stuff like that, maybe. I don't know. But I wish they hadn't changed it because I quite like the old one, which is why I tend to wear these old tops quite a lot, just because it's kind of what I prefer. Lucas says, "Are we confident on Thursday we can do it?" I mean, yeah, we did mention that before. We'll go back to that a bit later. But yeah, I think we are kind of cautiously optimistic, shall we say. And Lucas says, Martinelli has to start. Yeah, we mentioned that earlier as well. I totally agree. He has to start, but will he start? That's the question, I suppose. Mark there says, he agrees about Xhaka, too much criticism for a guy that shows passion and fight. What do you guys think about Xhaka for captain? Well, that is a very, very loaded question, isn't it? Because it's led to quite a lot of issues today after that video that Scott mentioned before. It is kind of his sort of video camera of him on and the match on Sunday. I think personally he's the only natural leader we've got in that team. But I understand why he wouldn't be a popular choice for captain because of what happened previously, and I understand that. But have we got any other natural leaders like that? I don't think we have. You can tell the players respect him. You can tell he is vocal on the pitch.
Kieran Tierney's a leader.
But he's always injured.
But that's the problem, isn't it? But if you look back at our captains, I did a video on this a little while ago. If you look back at our captains, going back as far as Tony Adams, they've been pretty hit and miss, haven't they? Arteta wasn't in the lineup a lot when he was captain. Koscielny obviously had his injuries. Mertesacker had his injuries. We don't, Fabregas obviously jogged on when he had the first chance he could go. Our captain choices have never been spectacular for a long time.
Yeah, Vermaelen, I think, was he captain?
Vermaelen, yeah, that's the other one, yeah.
That's Vermaelen as well.
Gallas.
Yeah.
Don't forget
Gallas as well, another one.
Yeah.
I'll put a link in the chat, guys, for the. It's from the Arsenal website about the crest. I haven't read it all, but there's a lot of information on there. Might answer our question.
Okay, that'd be good. Yeah, we can have a look through that as well. But
it looks like a good read.
But I mean, for me, I personally would have no issues with Xhaka being captain, just because I feel as though he's the natural choice out of all the current players that we've got, and that isn't necessarily saying a lot because no one else is a leader at all. We've got a captain who is more interested in getting his hair styled and driving about in his flashy cars than he is worrying about motivating his teammates on the pitch. So Xhaka's going to be an upgrade as captain, certainly on what we've got at the moment. And yes, Kieran Tierney is a possibility. I just don't, like you said before there, Scott, we've had a lot of captains in the past who have had a bad injury record. So surely now we don't want to pick another one that's got a bad injury record, do we? We want to pick a captain who can play most games.
That is the only thing. That is the only reason. I was talking about recently that the problem you got with Aubameyang and what you mentioned about the hairstyle. I mean, I've got real issues with that, right? Maybe I'm being a miserable git. I don't know. But for me, if you're on for player of the season and you're having a blinding season, you can do what you want to your hair. You can have your pink boots. You can have your purple boots. You can have your glow in the bloody dark boots. I don't care what you wear. But do not put the spotlight on yourself when you are having the worst season of your career. You've clearly got some disciplinary issues because, I know he's had some personal issues, and that's fair enough. But the personal issues were not the reason he was late at the derby. The derby is the biggest game of the season outside of, when we're playing for trophies. And for me, putting that why could he have not waited? It's only about 6 weeks. Go and get your hair extensions. I mean, my missus gets her hair extensions done and she's gone all day, right? That's not a 2-minute job. He's gone on the afternoon. He's gone, right, 11 o'clock out of training. Right, I'm down there in the hairdressers for the next 6 to 7 hours.
With Garner. Wasn't it when he was away with Garner he got it done, didn't he? I think.
Is that when it was? But for me, okay, fair enough if it was international duty, but put the extra time in training. Like, don't put a spotlight on yourself when you're playing like this.
Totally agree with that. I mean, I thought that was ridiculous, really. Like you said, when he's going through the worst season he certainly has had for Arsenal, and he does something like that halfway through the season. It's like, hang on a minute, you're captain of Arsenal. You should be concentrating on doing the best job you can, you know, with that contract that you got.
Do you remember years ago? I think it was Romania or one of the teams. They all done their hair bleached blonde.
Yeah,
and a lot of that's happened a lot. You get a lot of players that go and get it shaved bald, or they do something random, but they always wait to the end of the season because one, it's not it can wait to the end of the season, and two, if it goes wrong, you've got a few months to sort it out. But for me, back to the Aubameyang situation with captaincy, my biggest issue with him is just like everybody else, right? When he signed, I was on Instagram, I was giving him a like, and, you know, fair enough, and all this, Arsenal legend, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. But when the season started and we went through that terrible run of form, I mean, I hadn't set up a channel then. It was probably a good job I didn't, because I would have been, the expletives would have been coming out nearly every day at that point. But the thing was, with a captain, you know, when you're captain, you don't just get the sort of the kudos in the dressing room. There is a job to do. You are the voice. You are the spokesperson for the players outside of the manager. And but the benefits of being a captain is they get it's more like lucrative deals they get. You know, they get probably higher percentages of things behind the scenes, and so you get all those benefits. But you've got, as a captain, part of the minimum you need to do is take the rough with the smooth. And when we were going through that phase, we were losing week after week, and he wasn't coming out doing interviews. Now, for me, Arteta was out because he had no choice. Arteta was like, well, I've got to go and do it because I'm the manager. Well, also, we as fans, in probably our worst run of form in living memory for many of us, the minimum you expect is your captain to come out and say, do you know what? And okay, it's not all his fault. And okay, he isn't going to say anything that's going to make us sort of go, oh, okay, it's all fine. But you've still got to do it. And they were sending Tierney out. Even Saka was coming out. A young kid was going, yeah, I'll go out and do it. But the thing that wound me up most about that was, one, I see that as cowardly. And two, soon as his form improved, soon as we started turning round, who was out there? Like this, getting his makeup on, ready. Yep, coming in. Here we go. Let's do the interview. You can't have it both ways, Albert. You know, if you want to go out and sup up the glory when it's going well, absolutely fine. But when it's going bad, you as part of being captain, you got to do it both ways. And for me, I lost a lot of respect from him during that time.
Don't you?
Then again, maybe I'm being a miserable git.
Don't you think we're happy that he's happy? I was very happy he signed. You know, I was happy he signed. The money doesn't come out of my pocket, what they give him. But don't you think it was a bit embarrassing the way the club made a big PR thing of him signing? Like the Messiah has arrived. It's a bit over the top, I reckon.
Yeah, no, it was. But that kind of typical of modern football, though,
that's
isn't
it.
That's a modern football thing. I don't think that's just.
Look at Sanchez with the piano at Man United. It's all about who can do the biggest reveal every time.
Yeah, it is, and that's just modern football.
I don't like it.
I think there was such a clamour from Arsenal fans on social media for Aubameyang to sign that Arsenal have probably seen that and thought, okay, we'll make a big deal out of it. We'll make our fans happy. Yeah, that's the reason they've done it. And
no, it is. It's all about sort of PR and social media now, isn't it? That seems to be what clubs are worried about. I mean, talking about the captain, though, I remember going back. I think it was 1996, just after Bruce Rioch had been sacked at Arsenal, and Tony Adams was interviewed, and it was put to him that, you know, maybe this is going to be a bit of a transitional season with all the upheaval that's gone on at the club, and he turned around and said, I don't do transitional seasons. We're Arsenal, you know, every season's about going out and trying to do the best that you can and win trophies. And to me, that's brilliant. That's what you want to hear. But, you know, and that wasn't just him playing up to the camera. That was him being himself, being genuine, because that's how he felt. And where's a player like that in this current group? Where's someone who's got that passion and has got that understanding of Arsenal's history, and that we aren't a club that can go through a transition? All these people saying, oh, you know, Arteta needs time. He doesn't need time. He needs to get better results, because we're Arsenal and we don't, you know, as Tony Adams did, we don't do transitional seasons. We don't do transitional 5-year seasons, certainly, you know. We're a club that should be.
We're a completely different club to back them. I think it's sad. It's a shame.
Yeah, it's
a real shame.
But we're going to carry on. We're going to carry on being a different club to that if it's allowed to continue.
Yeah.
And it comes back to the point about no fans, because the only way it can change is if the fans make it change. The fans remind the players of their responsibilities that they've got playing for Arsenal. and what it means, and the responsibility that Arteta's got as well. He talks a good talk, Arteta, but unfortunately he doesn't walk the walk when it matters on the pitch enough. And it's a massive problem for me, and I don't know how we can get it back. I've got to be honest. We have lost it, and it is a different club, and it has changed. And I don't know how we can get that back. We need players in the club that understand Arsenal, understand what that means, and whether it's maybe people behind the scenes, maybe getting Tony Adams into the club, not as manager, but maybe behind the scenes, doing something at the club. Players like that, people like that understand.
Like a Gilberto, someone like that, someone who knows, like
Edu, and he's not. I don't think Edu's doing it properly. I don't think he's doing the right things in that way.
He looks good in the shirt, though. He looks good in the shirt and tie.
He looks good in the suit, the guy. But ultimately, we need people that are going to come into the club and shake it up and remind everybody what Arsenal is, what Arsenal stands for in football. And it isn't none of this stuff that's been going on over the last 2 or 3 years. That's not Arsenal. That's not the Arsenal that, I know younger fans might not necessarily know that, but I mean, certainly from my generation and stuff like that, that's not the Arsenal that I grew up with. That's not the Arsenal. Even when we weren't a good team, the club always stood for something that meant more. Do you know what I mean? And the club always had standards. And sometimes the team didn't reach those standards, but you knew at some point they would, because the club was all about that. But now it isn't. We've just become a caricature of the old Arsenal, unfortunately, and you see it on the pitch every single week.
The standards sometimes, Richard. The standards start at the youth level of our club. The youngsters coming through the youth level, they know what's expected of them. They don't have to. When they get to the first team, they don't sit them down and go, "Now, this is what you've got to do. You're an Arsenal player. You're expected to do this." They learn that going through, and that's why I'm a bit more confident with the youngsters coming through the next couple of years. I think there's a couple of there that look like 2 or 3 that might make the first team and be regular first teams that we haven't seen yet. So I'm a bit confident as that goes, because that is where they learn. It's the Arsenal way.
But with
buying a player for 50 million, I'm not pointing at any player, but buying a player for 50 million doesn't mean he understands. He might be a very good footballer, but sometimes you need more than that. And I love it when youngsters come through. I've seen it so many times. I saw it in the double team. I had so many youngsters that came through our ranks, the double team. Must have had 8 or 9 in the squad. And we didn't have a big squad then either. I think the squad was 16 players, 9 of which were come through the ranks. They had it in them. The 89 team. Look how many youngsters were so important.
Yeah, but Melvin, the point about that is that didn't come from the young players. That came from the people coaching the young players when they arrived at the club. It came from the top, and we haven't got that at the top anymore. It's gone. So the young players that we've got now, yes, I agree that some of them look as though they understand Arsenal's history. They understand what the club means. Saka in particular is probably the main one, and I do feel as though there's a few others as well. But that comes from the way that they're brought into the club and what's instilled in them. And that's what gave it to them previously from those teams that you mentioned. They didn't get that. They wasn't young players who just got that. It was drilled into them from the day they signed for the club as a 10, 11-year-old kid, whatever it was. It was drilled into them. This is Arsenal. This is Arsenal. This is what we do. This is what we're about. And that's got lost completely. The young players now, they don't get that when they walk through the door. All they're worried about is how much money they're getting. How much money am I going to get?
You make a great point, Richard. That's half the battle. And I was just thinking that before you said it, which was, this is the problem with the modern day player, and this isn't exclusive to Arsenal. Players want to get in the game, make their money, get their cars, get their beautiful wife or husband, get all the perks that come with being a footballer, and then they lose motivation. I mean, I know, like, gaming, as we call it, computer games are a massive thing in entertainment now. It's somewhat overtaken films and even sport in some way. But how many? I don't follow a lot of our players on all their social media accounts, but I'm aware. Obviously, I know Ozil used to be this Fortnite game that they all play. That's what a lot of these footballers do. That's their life. They kind of football. I'm a part-time footballer, but my real passion and hobby is gaming. I mean, we take the mick out of Gareth Bale for being a golfer and a part-time footballer. But this generation of youngsters, a lot of them that have the talent for football, doesn't necessarily mean that is their passion. And we're very, the clubs and the modern society, it's all quick wins. Well, you only live for so long. Yeah, we don't know what our expiry date is. You want to live life to its fullest in the time that you're lucky enough to have, and that is sort of fed through the generation. So kids now, they want the money, they want that star life as quick as possible. And if they come through at the club, and this whole Balogun situation, I mean, we're going to find out probably tomorrow or in the next day or two what your situation is on that. But some are saying that all the conversation is around playing time. It won't just be playing time. There's money will make a factor, and let's have it right. If he got offered the same deal with more money, he would have been got. If he'd been offered the same sort of terms, as in promises in the team, but a lot more money, he wouldn't be signing.
I got a theory. You say it's tomorrow. I reckon they'll wait till Friday in case we get beat.
Yeah, well, this is it, isn't it? That's the right. A lot of people have said that they're just holding that back. There's the softener.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, go on, John.
Just one thing about the players that come through the youth team, and obviously, it's great that they understand what it means to play for Arsenal. They've got a better understanding than the players that maybe come in from other clubs. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it comes down to quality, because Iwobi came through the ranks. He knew what it was to play for Arsenal. Maitland-Niles knows what it's like to play for Arsenal. J. Emmanuel Thomas knew what it's like. But if you haven't got the quality, then understanding and knowing what it means to wear the badge, it don't really matter.
But did they though? Because they're quite modern. They're modern players that's come through the academy. I don't think it's instilled in them as it was instilled in the players maybe from the 80s that came through, or the 90s that came through. I don't think it's been instilled in them, and I don't think they understand more than the players who come into the club from elsewhere. I agree with that, but have they really had it pushed onto them enough? Even that generation, the Maitland-Niles and the Iwobis, even then, have they had it pushed into them exactly how important Arsenal is and what it means?
Maybe not.
What it means.
Maybe not. But even if they did, even if they had it, shoved down their throat, I don't think Iwobi would still be at us.
No, maybe not. But sometimes, I don't know. Maybe if you're prepared to run through brick walls for the club because how important it is, how important it's been made, that can maybe give an extra 10% on your performance levels. Then you may have got just by going through the motions a little bit more. Maybe I'm not sure.
It's respect as well, Rich. It's the. I mean, I'm probably my generation. I'm probably a little bit too late. A bit. What I've been told is back in the day, the youngsters were cleaning the boots. They didn't have they didn't come into these beautiful dressing rooms with all the kit done and creased and the polished boots. And you got to earn your stripes.
Yeah, can you imagine that now?
They come in now. They come shut. A lot of them don't even drive in. They get driven in. They got their chauffeured in, and they're living the lifestyle.
They have agents when they're like 17, 18-year-old. They have an agent.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Come on. You don't, you shouldn't have an agent.
And where else is it like that? You tell me another industry. I mean, we all probably work in different industries, and I work in IT. You start at the bottom of the ladder, and you do all the dog's body stuff that no one wants to do, and you do the worst stuff for the least amount of money, and then you work your way up and you earn it. And it's like that in nearly everywhere but football.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I know football's slightly different because you've only got a short career, but even so, if you don't understand what it's like to struggle, you're never going to appreciate what you've got. And I think that young players in general, not just at Arsenal, I agree, this isn't just an Arsenal problem, this is a football problem. And unfortunately, Arsenal have suffered maybe more than some clubs because of the rich history and the traditions that we always had that we've lost. Some clubs have never had them. I mean, what are Chelsea going to lose? Nothing. What are Man City going to lose? Nothing, because they never had nothing to start with. So they're not really suffering too much in that same sense as we are, because we got such a great history and great tradition in English football. And it's been a massive, big problem, I think, for us. But it is a problem in football. I actually blame reality TV, because reality TV has created this situation where young people think they can be rich and famous for doing very little. And I think that's gone down into football as well. I work in grassroots football quite a lot, with junior football. And I don't just blame the young players, it's the parents as well. But that's where it started from. You can see a totally different attitude. Now, young kids want to be footballers because they want to be rich and famous, not because they want to be a footballer. Whereas back in the day, you wanted to be a footballer. You wanted to be a footballer. And if you got good money, you got good money on the back of it. But now they just want to be rich and famous. Well, I'm quite good at football, so I'll be a footballer because I can become rich and famous. Or some people.
Yeah, when we were all young, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but when I was a kid and I was kicking me and my mates were in the park, and you got the jumpers down the goalpost, you always, you're coming onto the ball, and you'd always go like Bergkamp or whoever, and you're always thinking of scoring the winner of the FA Cup or you never thought, oh, I swear to God, I didn't know money wasn't even an. I remember on teletext, I have no idea what Bergkamp. I think I remember what Bergkamp signed for, but as a kid, I had no idea what wage he was on, and neither did I care. But that's the thing with the media and the world, we're so connected. We know everything about everyone that kids nowadays aren't thinking about scoring the FA Cup winner. They're thinking, if I earn X amount of money, this is the lifestyle that I'm going to get because of that money. That's why a lot of people want to be YouTubers. If you ask kids now, my nephew, he's 9, and they did a poll, and something like 30% of kids now want to be YouTubers because they think that it's sit at home, it's easy, loads of money, playing. A lot of them also want to play computer games, and it's just a generational thing.
No, it is. It is a generational thing. I think it stems from reality TV. Actually, I think that's where it seems to have started from. I mean, I can remember when I was a kid, I'd be playing football and stuff, and my dad would always say to me, you need to look. You want to think about getting a real job because football's never going to pay the bills. But in them days, it probably didn't. And certainly when my dad was young, football didn't pay the bills. Footballers didn't. But
you didn't care because you had the passion. You didn't care about the money. You wanted to play football because you like football.
Exactly. And that's the difference now. I think kids now, they just look at football as a meal ticket, and that's it. And they want to get into it for the wrong reasons. And I think you can see some players, and even some of the young players at Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal have got no issue with this. I do think some of the young players at Arsenal, you can quite clearly tell when they speak, when they're interviewed, or just by their overall demeanour, that they're in football to make as much money as they can, as quickly as they can, and they're not bothered about becoming a great player. And unfortunately, we've got some of them now in our first team squad, unfortunately, and that's it's not just Arsenal; it's happening everywhere.
Can I give you one name? Can I give you one name that would not contradict what we're saying, but this has been going on longer? Anelka. Adebayor. Well, 2 names. Adebayor. Chasing the money. Chasing the money.
For me, Anelka and Adebayor are modern footballers. I know Anelka was maybe quite a long time ago. Maybe he's just on the borderline. But
it's been going on a long time.
It has been going on a long time, and this is why we've now got a generation that have grown up with that, because kids now that are 15, 16-year-old, they haven't known anything else, have they? That's all they've known in football, and it's not their fault, I suppose. But ultimately, now football is looked upon as, and it comes back to maybe the point I was trying to get onto earlier about no fans in the stadium. Football has now become a TV show, and people maybe think I can become a reality TV star by being a footballer, because that's basically what football is now. It's reality TV. And that's where it's gone. And unfortunately, and Sky to blame for that as well, since Sky have come in. I mean, I can remember when I used to go to Arsenal, right, you would almost feel like if your game was selected to be on telly, because it happened so rarely, right, you'd be excited thinking, we're going to be on telly today. And you'd wave to the camera and stuff when it went through the crowd and whatever, because it just never happened. Whereas now, every single game's on telly, and it's took that magic away from the start off. And it's almost, I don't know, too many, it's gone too far, and you can't go back. I would actually stop all TV like it was before, and I would just have one live game a week on a Sunday at 4:00. Every other game would be Saturday at 3:00. One live game on a Sunday. Don't have all live games from all other countries, because no one really cares. No one cares about all that stuff, really. It's just, it's on so people watch it. You can't tell me that someone's actually really bothered about, I don't know, say Slavia Prague, unless we're playing them. Who cares about them? Nobody. Who wants to watch that? Who wants to watch the Europa League, which we're not in it? Nobody really. They just put it on telly and people watch it because it's on. I would scrap it all. Just have one Premier League game on a Sunday at 4:00, like they used to. Pick one game a week, and don't always pick Liverpool against Man United. Pick, I don't know, Sheffield United against Burnley one week, just to give those.
That's not going to please the sponsors, and that's why it'll never happen.
No, exactly. It will never happen, Richard. Never happen.
Do you know what it is as well? The other thing we've become, football's become sanitized, right? Is when you see something, and this is not just football, when you see or do something over and over and over, it's like a song, right? A song will come out, you love that song, and unless it's an absolute classic, once you've heard it so many times, you've rinsed it and you go, I don't really like it anymore. Football is a bit like that, because we see football so much. Youngsters, a lot of young people, they don't watch a whole game of football. They'll tune in for 15, 20 minutes, get their dosage, a bit of football, keep an eye on it, and then I've got some colleagues that back in the day when I used to be in an office, I'd speak to, and then I'll go, there might be a Spurs fan, for instance, and I say, I watched the game last night. Oh, I caught a bit of it. What do you mean you caught a bit of it? You have to watch the whole thing or none at all. But people do that. People just catch a bit because they don't feel like when you was younger and when you said when there was one game a week, you'd make sure, like the FA Cup. I remember the 98 FA Cup with Newcastle. I was about 13, 12. Me and my mate got up in the morning, got the breakfast, got on the go, it was a big, massive build up for the game. The FA Cup now, whether we're in it or not, I couldn't care less. I mean, obviously, if we're in it, I'll watch it. But when we're not in it, I'm not bothered if I miss it. It's just another game of football.
On the BBC,
what date's the FA Cup this year? What date's the FA Cup final?
I don't even know. There you go.
Exactly. I used to know every year when the FA Cup was for certain.
I guarantee
that was football for me.
I guarantee
it's
one
5
thing
o'clock now, though, isn't it? It's not 3 o'clock anymore.
At 3 o'clock. It won't be on a Saturday at 3 o'clock.
No,
of course not. No, that's true.
Every day it is.
Same with the Champions League. They've moved the Champions League final to a Saturday now to accommodate more money and more viewing figures, because that used to be on the Wednesday, didn't it? Or like when it should be on.
It used to be on a Wednesday, yeah. I mean, talking about the FA Cup, I mean, the BBC have been plugging the FA Cup semi-finals all week, live coverage of the FA Cup semi-finals, and I'm like, Scott, I actually don't care. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not bothered. I don't care who wins. I'm not interested in it at all.
Unless you're in it.
In fact, this last year of football being every single game on telly, I've watched less football now on telly than I did before, because it's overkill. It's too much, and I'm not interested. I watch Arsenal's games. I normally do a watch-along because I can't just sit and watch an Arsenal game at home on telly. I just can't do it. It just does me in. So that's
happened with me with other sports though. Darts. I mean, I've always been I play darts, and I've always been a massive darts fan. But now it used to be on 5-6 times a year. It's on. They got tournaments nearly every weekend now. If I miss a whole tournament, I go, oh, well, it'll be on next week. There'll be another tournament, another major.
No, exactly. And I think less is more quite often in life, and it's something that I think Sky and the TV companies need to understand, that it's not having football on all the time. It's actually making it worth watching, and unfortunately it isn't worth watching anymore. I don't think it is, and I'm hoping that when we can go back in the grounds, and I probably won't be allowed back in because I'm not going to have a COVID vaccine thing, passport, whatever it is, so they probably won't let me in. But if I'm eventually allowed in, I might have to sneak in like I used to in the 1980s maybe. But if I can get in, if I can actually get in, jump over the fence or underneath the turnstile, if I can actually get in, I'm hoping that it'll make me change my view. But at this moment in time, I'm not actually bothered. I don't watch any football unless it's Arsenal. I'll only watch that on a watch-along. I won't sit down in front of the telly and watch a game of football because I'm not interested in it, because I don't think it's the same. You've got VAR nonsense going on. You've got no fans in the stadium. There's no atmosphere. It's just not the same. It's almost like a completely different sport. It's like they've taken away the football that I grew up loving and they've replaced it with this robotic TV show that I just don't like.
My dad's been saying this. My dad, he's a Chelsea fan, unfortunately.
Well, there you go. Then. That explains a lot. It's a long story how I end up supporting Arsenal. I'll tell you one for another day. But he's a Chelsea fan. I spoke to him recently. Obviously, I don't see him anymore with lockdown and everything. And he's like, son, I don't even watch the football now. I just don't enjoy it. My dad's not the most analytical thing with football, but the first thing he said to me months ago was, it ain't the same without the fans. It's just not the same spectacle on TV. No, it's not. And I don't think the TV coverage is the same either, because they've got so much games to show all the time. Football's become more kind of, I suppose, statistical maybe, which isn't a bad thing. I quite like statistics and stuff, but that's all it is. And people judge a player on the fact that, they've made 50 passes in this game. I don't care how many passes they've made. I'm perfectly capable of watching the game with my own eyes and deciding how good a player or bad a player's playing. I don't need someone to tell me they've made 50 good passes or they've made 4 bad passes. Do you know what I mean? I don't care. It's how I've seen them play and their impact on the
one
game.
That gets me is the XG. Is it expected goals, this new one?
I
don't understand it. I don't even try and understand it.
What even is that anyway? Expected goals. It's like, well,
but apparently we are.
Your expected goals are going to be probably 4.
Apparently it's the big thing. Apparently, if you don't understand expected goals, you don't know anything about football. Apparently,
I don't know anything about modern football. I've got to agree with that, definitely. Because I don't know what expected goals is. It comes up on Match of the Day as one of the statistics, doesn't it? When they show the shots
does it? I don't watch Match of the Day anymore.
Target, right? And even sometimes I don't understand shots on target, right? Because I've looked at them sometimes, I thought, well, that's a shot. You mark it down, and I've got, they had 4 shots on target, and you're saying they've had 8. Well, where were the other 4? They weren't shots on target at all. They were just shots that hit a defender from about 40 yards out. That's not a shot on target. A shot on target is only the goalkeeper save.
You got the pre-assist as well. Don't forget the pre-assist.
I took the kickoff, so do I get an assist or a part of an assist
Yeah.
because we scored 25 minutes later? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it's come down to, isn't it? And
The thing that
unfortunately,
made me laugh at the Emirates before the lockdown was when they used to tell you the score at half time and full time. Why do they tell you the score? Where have you been, mate? Do they think we can't add up? I mean,
No,
they're
but
never
to be
going to be
fair,
8-7, is it? I mean, it might be 1-0 or 2, whatever. Why tell us the score?
most of the fans at the Emirates spend
Ridiculous.
half their time down at the bar or spend half the time on their phone.
You
No,
load
they're
it
not
up.
half of them, so that's probably why they do, because they won't know what the score
Yeah.
is.
Then they can't bother. What I mean, on that basis, then don't bother what the score is anyway. Why let them know during the bar before the game, before half time? No, it's
I know.
So they're a
ridiculous,
paying
that.
customer. That's all the club wants is their money.
Yeah.
That's all they want.
Yeah.
Mind you, to be fair, even in the 80s when I used to go, there used to be a lot of my mates used to spend half the game down at the bar, not watching the game. I never used to, because I used to go to watch the game, but a lot of people didn't. And I suppose it's
Football
the same
weren't
now.
great then, was it, Richard?
No, it wasn't. I can
Football
understand
weren't
why
great.
they did it, because sometimes having a drink at the bar was a lot more exciting than sitting watching
Yeah.
Arsenal in the early 1980s. But anyway, but I always went for the football and the atmosphere in the ground, really. And to me, that's what football is. And I've never been a big kind of TV watcher of football, just on the basis that, to me, it's like the difference to me. It's like listening to a CD or watching a band live in concert, and that's what watching football on TV is listening to a CD, and being at a game is like watching a live concert. And you can't compare the two; it's a completely different experience. And
I agree,
into the
but
other.
I agree, Richard. But I've become a lazy football supporter now.
But we all have.
Very lazy. If you say to me, right, you got a seat for the game and it's a full ground, great atmosphere, I'll still be thinking, you know what? Hour and a half getting there, hour and a half getting back.
Money,
Bish bash bosh, nice cup of tea
Money
half
as well,
time.
money.
And the money, very expensive, and a nice cup of tea half time, and not like watered down crap. Yeah, I don't know, where would I rather be? And if we're getting beat 3-0, perhaps I won't watch the last 10 minutes. You know?
Yeah.
So,
No.
you know.
Like the other night, right? The other night, a typical example, kicking off at 7 o'clock on a Sunday. Yes, with fans, you probably wouldn't kick off at 7 o'clock on a Sunday because you never used to, right? But to me, I'm not bothered we kick off at 7 o'clock on a Sunday. It finishes at 9. I can go downstairs, watch Line of Duty, have a cup of tea. Within 5 minutes, the game finishes. It's brilliant. I've got to drive 3 hours home. You know what I mean? So,
Do you know what it is, guys? As well,
I think that I might prefer this afterwards, even when we were allowed back in. I know I'll be banned anyway, but I mean, when people are allowed back in, I don't know if I'll be bothered because I quite enjoy just going down for a cup of tea at half time when the game's on.
It's lovely.
the other thing is though, what's happened? I mean, I'm assuming you guys are all in Britain, in England, yeah?
I'm not.
Are you not?
Nah.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Well, what I will say is that it's the British fan that is changing because people that aren't in Britain generally can't go to games, can they? So from the club's perspective, when I hear people going, foreign fans, they don't, and I hate seeing that because these people are getting up in all sorts of hours of the night to watch us lose to Burnley, and for me that's just disrespectful. Like the actual fan base there's more Arsenal fans off of this island than there is on it. If you at the moment, I mean that may change, but just because you live in England doesn't mean you're a bigger or better or more important fan. But certainly from the club's perspective, you aren't anything special. Do you know what I mean? From the fans' perspective, they think of the bigger picture, the world. But and this is where the club's got to change because we've got to cater to those fans.
No, and exactly, and I totally agree with that. And I don't think it matters where in the world you live. You can still be an Arsenal fan or not. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's just as equally important as an Arsenal fan as not. The only thing I would say is that it's you experience the game differently when you're in the stadium than if you are watching it on telly. And wherever you are in the world, if you can't be in the stadium, that doesn't make you less of a fan. It just means you experience it in a different way. And also your emotions are slightly different because, as Melvin just pointed out there, and I totally agree, if you spend all day travelling, you spend all that money, you've stood out in the freezing cold, and you've got a 4-hour drive back having seen us lose 3-0, you're going to be slightly more annoyed than if you can just go down and have a cup of tea. Even if you had to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do so, at least you've been in the comfort of your own home and you haven't spent loads of money doing it, and you haven't experienced it in a different way. It's not better or worse, it's just a different experience. And I know for a fact, since I've not been going to games because we've not been able to go, that I don't get half as annoyed when we lose. Because I'm thinking, well, I haven't spent 400 quid today to watch us lose 3-0. I've been sitting in my own home in the warm, and I can, as soon as the game's finished, I'm at home. I can go and sit on the settee and do something else. Whereas I haven't got a 3-hour drive home, so I don't get as annoyed because I'm not as annoyed with myself probably for putting myself through all of that.
The other thing is though, the other thing which is with that is that I also think that you don't get as you're right with exactly what you're saying. You don't get as down when you're at home because you can get distracted. Like you can talk to the missus or whoever, the kids, do whatever. So you can get back to the pre or post football mindset, but you also can't enjoy it the same when you get that winning, that last minute feeling. You can jump around in your front room, and I mean I do the watch alongs like you, and you probably see I jump up a little bit, but I'm 10 times worse if I'm in the stadium, and that's living, isn't it? That's the experience that you're losing. So I mean
people have said it to me, right? People have said, I've seen you watch alongs, and when Arsenal score you're not jumping up and down. I'm like, well no, because I'm not in the stadium. When you're in the stadium, you jump around and go mental because you're in the stadium, you're caught up in the atmosphere. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? When you're at home, you might be excited that you score. I mean, you see some of these, I've seen some watch-alongs and you see some stuff that Arsenal do with it, the fans at home, and you're thinking, you're just doing that for the camera because nobody does that in their home, do they? Nobody. You do that when you're in the stadium or when you're at the pub watching it with a load of people. You don't do that at home on your own. You don't. No one reacts like that.
The only one I went mad to at home here was I think when Odegaard equalised against Spurs. Then I went pretty mad for that one.
No, but your big goal, you can understand that.
Right for that one.
The thing is, you can't go big anymore because I mean, on my watch-alongs, I don't know if you've seen them. I actually have a thing, I've graphic I've set up, so VAR pops up on the screen because I don't know. You don't know if you're actually celebrating a real goal. So what I do is when I get sign off, it's an actual goal. I push a button and the VAR disappears because for me. That's what we should have on TV. If we're going to have to deal with this VAR, as soon as that ball hits the net, I want a VAR button on the screen. And the second, because sometimes you're sitting there and you're going, is it a goal? And all of a sudden the commentator will go, yeah, it is a goal. And I'm like, hang on, you've known that for 10 seconds. And I'm sitting here worrying whether the goal was counted. You can't actually let yourself go anymore.
Well, you saw the Xhaka thing. You saw the Xhaka thing with Martinelli on the open mic thing. He was saying, were you offside? Were you offside? Like, he didn't know.
I think you were trying to wind him up. I think he was winding him up to say you was offside. It's not going to count.
How was he? Fair enough.
Wind him up because it was his first goal for the season. But I don't know. That's what I got. That's what I thought he was doing it for. But no, you're right. You can't. You have to wait now. You can't immediately celebrate a goal because it could get disallowed. Then you're going to look stupid, aren't you? I know if you're in the stadium, it doesn't matter because we've done it before. But if you're at home, you jump around your living room, and then the goal's disallowed 2 seconds later. You are going to look an idiot, aren't you? Let's face it.
Only to yourself, though.
Well, no, if you're doing it live on YouTube,
she can hear me. She can hear me upstairs.
YouTube, yeah.
YouTube.
I put out there a couple of months ago. I've learned not to celebrate a goal until I get a confirmation email.
Yeah.
Pigeon carrier.
You don't know, do you? You just don't know.
You don't know. You don't. It's the ball's in the net, but that actually doesn't matter anymore, does it? It used to. As soon as you saw triple of the net, you'd go mental because you knew you'd scored. Yeah. Now you see triple of the net, you're thinking, well, have we scored or not? I don't know.
Well, just on 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Did you see the thing that Arsene Wenger come out the other day and said that they're going to trial in the World Cup, the automated offsides? Did you guys catch that?
No, I didn't catch that at all.
So essentially, what they are trialing it, or they've already trialed it. But basically, what's going to happen is, obviously, I'm guessing it's going to be some really high frame rate cameras or something. But it'll go to the linesman, so the linesman can put the flag up. So the players on the field should know within seconds whether it's offside or not, which would actually go back to how it used to be because they would always score and then look over at the linesman. So essentially, what's meant to happen is it's going to be almost instantaneous, as in I don't know how, but they're going to know it's offside. It goes to the watch on the linesman, obviously probably vibrate, and then he just whacks his flag up. But again, we were told this about VAR, how it was meant to be before, but he did come out recently and say that's what they're trying to do.
But that all sounds very good in theory, but for me, when you've seen it with VAR with offsides now, when it's that close to being offside, you couldn't disallow a goal. No, if there's any sort of, are you sure you've got to draw these stupid lines on the pitch that don't even match? They're not even straight lines half the time. When you've got to do that to decide if a goal's onside or offside, just give the goal. Don't even bother to even check it. Look at it. Well, it looks a little bit close. Well, just give the goal. Don't worry about it. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate. Nobody cares. People care about celebrating goals. People care about the important things. They don't care about a goal disallowed because somebody's armpit was offside. No one cares.
When we used to get the replays and they used to come up, right? And it would just freeze frame, and then you go, "Oh yeah, he's on." We would never. No one went up there with the ruler, did they? And go, "Oh, we would look at it, and you go, "Oh, he's just on," and you wouldn't even question it. Well, all those ones that we're seeing, the yellow and the blue, and that's another one for you guys. I never know who's the yellow and who's the blue. Why can't it be the red for Arsenal and white for Tottenham or blue for Chelsea? Why is the colours mix and match? I'm like, well, hang on. By the time I've worked out which colour's which person, they've gone, yeah, it's off. And I'm like, oh, is it? Sorry, I couldn't even tell what colour was who.
Yeah,
like, it's ridiculous.
The whole thing's a farce. And, you know, and if it's going to be on the watch of a referee, which is a lineman, which is going to basically be to the millimetre, isn't it? It's going to be like the over the line or not over the line technology. Yeah. It's going to be to the millimetre, and that's not what we want. That's what we need in football. I mean, I can remember loads of goals that got disallowed, right? When you got to a game and the goal gets disallowed, and you think he didn't look offside, and then you see a replay of it on Match of the Day later on, and you think, well, that was very close. It was borderline, and you might have gone against her, and you get annoyed and you're upset, but ultimately you accept it because it's just a human error. But when they're doing all these lines and they're saying, oh, he's a millimetre offside, his ear was offside or whatever it is. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous, and I don't want any. I'd rather the referees get it wrong. Try to be honest, fairly, rather than do all this.
Do you think they're sabotaging it though? Because we called out as fans, and I was guilty as anybody else. I was saying for years, after you get these decisions against you, I was saying, I want technology, right? And if all the referees will go, you don't want it, it'll be crap. I feel like the technology's fine. It's just that it's almost like it feels like they're purposely making it crap. So what will happen eventually, they'll listen to us today and go, oh, do you know what? Well, I'll tell you what, you wanted it, you had it, you didn't like it, okay, we'll bin it off. And then they actually get what they wanted all along, which is to not have it. I feel like they're purposely making it a poor so that it doesn't stick around.
Yeah, but the technology itself, yes, I agree. The way they use it has not helped. But like I said, when they're looking at offsides in the way they're looking at, that's not the fault of the technology. That's the fault of the way that they're using the technology, isn't it? They're using it for that reason when they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be using it for that at all. That's not what it should be used for. All the technology should be used for is if it's maybe a dubious penalty, maybe was there contact? Should that be a penalty? Maybe use it for that, or something like that, or an obvious decision that they've got wrong.
But the decisions are so poor. How are they looking at the replays? You think back to that Chambers goal last year against Palace, and he's been fouled by two men, but somehow he's apparently fouled. How can one or two men look at the same video? And this is what infuriates all of us, is like you said before, back in the olden days, 18 months ago, we would be like, oh, well, he didn't see it. It was a bit quick. He was blindsided. You can make excuses for him. But when you know that they're looking at the exact same thing that you're looking at, they can watch it as many times as they want. And 20 million people at home can see that's a penalty or not a penalty or a red or not a red. But one or two men say the otherwise. That's why there's so much hatred for it, because you just can't accept that.
Even if it's not bent, you feel like it's bent. Yeah. Because you're seeing something you cannot actually translate into your brain as why is that given? As you say, no one's in the way. It's not too fast for the referee. It's there in black and white, or in colour, if you like. It's there. And they're telling you something that doesn't exist. And you're thinking, why? Is it incompetence? Is it unconscious bias? And that is why the trust has gone. And the people that
I think one of the things that they should do, right, and this is just me throwing it out here. I thought about this a little while ago. So clearly, I think we're all in agreement that VAR's probably not going anywhere anytime soon, right? And clearly, the standards of the officials are not going to improve. What they should do, they should either have 3 or 5. It doesn't matter if they're referees. They can be anybody that knows who's learned the rules of football. That's all you need to know, right? 3 or 5 people that are independent of each other. Who the VAR is 5 people. It has to be an odd number, but they don't know each other. They're not in the same room. They're not They they've got. They might even just have a border, set of headphones,
That
and
sounds
a
like a good
border.
game show for a Saturday night TV.
Yeah. But listen, it doesn't have to build drama. But each person has to do a vote. So you've got 5 people, and whichever result wins is the decision. You've now
You're
got.
going to end up.
less
You're going to end up.
chance.
You're going to end up having more officials than players.
Maybe they should do it as a phone-in. What do you think? You decide. Is it offside or not offside?
504 if you think this is a goal. Twitter poll. Yeah. No, but the idea is that you're not got one idiot. You got to have. You've then got to have 3 idiots to get it wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just think that may be causing more problems. I mean, Gary in the chat says, he said VAR is trying to make an imperfect game perfect for offsides, but it's imperfect for everything else. Exactly. I quite like it being imperfect, I've got to be honest. And he says, why use it for subjective rules at all? Have a buzzer for offsides only. I mean, I don't want any of it at all. I would rather human error be the deciding factor. And I think we all accepted it before. Yeah, we got the ump and we, threw our toys out of the pram sometimes when we didn't get decisions go our way. But
the thing is, it's not perfect, Richard. Look at Aston Villa only stayed up because they got a ghost goal that they never got.
Well, yeah,
they would have got relegated last year.
Well, we kept Aston Villa up, didn't we? By losing.
Well, we did as well. We helped.
It was us that kept them up. I think that was probably why. Going back to a bit of earlier, Shane put a comment on what age do young players get agents nowadays? Who's under 23 captain? I think they get agents now about 7 years old when they join the academies, probably. I wouldn't be surprised. Terry says, when Wenger first took over, within 2 seasons, we had 11 or 12 players that wanted to play for our badge. Now maybe 2 or 3. Well, yeah, it's more than 11 or 12, I would have thought. I think it was a bit more than that in them days. Now it's probably less than 2 or 3. There's only one I can think of. Terry says 2-0 to Canada now in the women. That's unfortunate. But anyway, I'm sure it's only a friendly, isn't it? I think so. We don't have to worry too much about that at the moment. Gary Pat says in the chat says, panel, do you see these new age issues with Saka and ESR? Balogun, I feel, is a product of Arsenal not taking care of business early and an agent looking out for his client, his bank account. No, exactly. Saka and ESR do seem different, don't they? They do seem different, and whether it's because they get the whole Arsenal thing, maybe more so. I certainly think Saka does. Saka gets Arsenal. He's like a throwback to the 1980s, isn't he? In the way that he understands the club and the way that he understands the history and what it means. And he's one of the only ones. I think ESR to a certain degree, probably not to the same extent. I think Saka's a one-off maybe. I don't know where he's got that from. Is it his family maybe? I don't know if they're big Arsenal fans possibly, whether that's where he's got that from. But Saka gets it, definitely, 100%. He's the one player in that squad, for me, that gets Arsenal 100%, gets what it's about, what it means. And I don't think any others do. Even the young players, I don't think Balogun doesn't really get what it's like to play for Arsenal. And I know it's not necessarily his fault, maybe his agent. I mean, again, we come back to it before. Why does a player that age need an agent? He either wants to sign for Arsenal as his professional contract, or he doesn't. Simple as that. Why does a player that age need an agent? It's ridiculous. They should ban agents until a player's 21 at least, I would say, or maybe even older than that. I don't understand why players like that need to have an agent. Let their dad deal with it. That's what you need. You need your parents to deal with it. Your parents sort it out. And that, like it used to happen in the old days, there's nothing wrong with that. But now you've got an agent.
The parents won't negotiate the money, though, will they? They won't. These agents, they know how to get the extra money.
They shouldn't be allowed to. They shouldn't be allowed to negotiate. With young players, they shouldn't be allowed to. A young player gets offered a contract. Maybe there should be a limit on what young players can earn anyway. So they can't earn big money no matter where they go. It's up to them. Do you want to stay at Arsenal and play for Arsenal, or do you want to go and play somewhere else? It should be that should be the choice. Not
wasn't Chelsea done a while ago for that though? What was it Chelsea done? They got in trouble with the youngsters, or have I made that up? There was something that a couple of years ago.
Did they not get? That's why they got their transfer ban, didn't they?
Because weren't they making was it promises we'll give you this, or it was something that was so they weren't giving them cash or something.
Yeah, it was something to do with the academy. Yeah, that's why they got their transfer ban. Something to do with that. Yeah. Sure. But there should be rules in place that young players up to a certain age, they don't have an agent. There's a limit on what young player can earn, and that's it. And then you once you've signed your first professional contract and you've got into the first team squad and you getting appearances. At that point, then you can then start negotiating a better contract later on. But Balogun shouldn't be in that position. He shouldn't be in that position at all. No young player should. They shouldn't have that pressure on them for a start off. That's a lot of pressure, isn't it? When you're going to play for a contract worth or money that for an 18-year-old, 17, 18-year-old is just ridiculous. I mean, I probably haven't earned what some of them players have earned in 1 week. I haven't earned that in my lifetime, and they've earned it in like a week. You know what I mean?
I hope Balogun becomes a very successful footballer with us. But my worry is, if he's got this attitude, it may just be the agent, but he's got to tell the agent what he wants as well, that he's bigger than the club, then it doesn't bode well for the future. However,
no, I agree. You can see the problems already there, can't you? The problems are there before he's even started. And how is that going to change? I don't know. And
that just highlights what we spent about 15 minutes talking about earlier, doesn't it? About the youngsters and they wanting it all. They want it all before they've actually earned it. That's just the thing. Let's hope that he delivers. Let's hope that in a couple of years we look back on that and go, it was a great money well spent from our perspective. But there's no guarantees, is there?
Well, my worry with Balogun is that if he has a good season, his agent's going to be touting him around.
More money, and off he goes.
He'll be gone. Yeah, of course he will. He's not the sort of player that you get the feeling that he's going to stay at Arsenal for 10 years. Coming through, he's going to have one decent season. He's going to have doing a Nelka situation. He's going to have one decent season and he'll be off. He'll get offered more money and he'll go. Absolutely guaranteed. And
Van Persie.
For me, I wouldn't even give him a contract on that basis. I just wouldn't do it. And no matter how good he might be, you should only be signing these young players that want to play for Arsenal. As soon as they start coming in and say, I want more money, I'd say, see ya, go. Go wherever you want to go. I don't want you. I'm not interested. I want players who are 100% committed to wanting to build their career at Arsenal. Young players who want to be at the club. Because we're bigger than that. We don't need players like that. We've got our first team full of them. We don't need any more coming through the youth team. They should know what it means to play for Arsenal. They should want to play. Saka is not going to leave Arsenal, is he? I don't matter how much offers he gets. You can see him staying at Arsenal regardless of anything. You can see it in him. Every time he walks on the pitch, you can see it. Every time he speaks, you can see it. Balogun don't care about Arsenal.
Saka, that you say that about Saka, I completely agree with you. But he'll only do that for so many years. If we
look at Harry Kane, look how much.
What I'm just going to say to you, Harry Kane but he's come to the end of his tether now. By all accounts, he's supposed. I mean, I don't think he can leave because I don't think anybody will pay Spurs what they want. But he clearly wants to leave. He realizes that he's not going to get he's not going to get their Premier League title. They were going deep in the Champions League. That's gone. We could find ourselves in that situation with Saka. It's probably a good chat for another day. That one. That's quite a long convo. But ultimately, he will stay with us for so long. But if we're not ambitious and we're floating around mid-table in 4 or 5 years, and then City come along or whoever and say guaranteed trophies and double your money.
Yeah, maybe then. Yeah, but what I'm saying is he's not the sort of player who's going to jump ship, is he, straight away?
Not today, no.
No.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these other ones definitely will. I don't think there's absolutely no doubt about it. Actually, there was a comment earlier that I kind of lost in the comments actually, which I wanted to bring up and I can't find it now. Anyway,
Gary made a good point about in the USA, which was kind of, it basically sounds like they've had that was kind of the thing I was thinking of, but apparently that's what they have.
NFL have a video review in a central location for all games. Those people are not associated with referees. Yeah, no conflict of interest. No, I didn't know they did that in the NFL because I don't really watch it. But yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I'm not sure if that would work. I mean, I think our game's become too Americanized as it is. I think we should try and steer away from that if possible. But if it's going to get a better result, maybe. And Anthony's in the chat as well. The Republic of Arsenal has a good panel. He says, "Big up, lads! Thanks for watching, Anthony." And make sure you check his channel out as well, Republic of Arsenal.
It's good. It's a good one.
On there as well. So please check that out as well. And Dave as well from the Out and Out Gunners podcast. He was going to come on tonight actually, but he couldn't make it. So he's in the chat now. Thanks for tuning in. I know you was busy a bit earlier. And James says, big up yourselves and Scott. And he says that he's loving the show as well, which is good. Thank you very much for watching and for the comments as well. We kind of went off track a little bit with a few things there, but it was quite fun anyway because I kind of quite enjoyed that. But I guess ultimately, everything that we've almost spoke about in a way though is kind of tied in with there being no fans. The way that the whole lot of football's just, to me, it's been allowed to run out of control because the fans haven't been there to keep it in check. And I don't think people would have maybe given fans that much credit before, how important that fans were. I think people looked on fans as one bringing money into the club through the ticket sales and merchandise and all that kind of stuff. but maybe dismissed almost the influence and how important they are on a day-to-day basis during the game, as we've said, with the influence that they have on the referees, the influence that they have on the players, and everything else. And I just think football is just spiralling out of control because the fans aren't there to say, hang on a minute, we don't like this and we're not happy about this. And when you've got 60,000 people that aren't happy and making it obvious they're not happy, that makes a massive difference to decisions that get made. And you can see that's happened over the last year. And I just hope that when fans are back in the ground, that the people that run football, the authorities that run football, actually understand how important fans are and treat fans in the right way. TV companies stop making games kick off at 8 o'clock on a Monday night when you can play it on a weekend when people can get there and back. You know, think about the fans, think about how important they are and treat them with a bit more respect rather than just putting...
Richard, they won't think about the fans, they think about the consumers. There's two different things. Consumers pay a lot more money than the fans.
Yeah, they do. And Sky don't care about fans, and they have done. The fans in the stadium, they care about the people at home, like you said, the customers watching on telly, and they'll always think about that. But unfortunately, as we've seen over the last year, and I think we can all agree, without fans in the stadium, it's not the same product, and it's not as good a product to watch. But yet they don't care because their advertising revenue's gone through the roof because they've got every single game on.
But they'll only keep the only way it's ever going to change is if we all ring BT and Sky tomorrow and start cancelling our subscriptions and stop watching, because if we stop watching, the numbers go down and the sponsors don't pay.
I cancelled my subscription to Sky in 2001, so they've not had my money for a long time because I'm totally against what they've done to football. And obviously, me cancelling mine is going to make no difference when millions are still subscribing. But I can only do what I can do myself, and I made that decision a long time ago, and I'll never ever subscribe to any of them again for that reason, because they're killing football for me, and I wish everybody cancelled. But we've seen in the last year that they don't care because 10 games a week now are live on telly, 10 Premier League games. There used to be maybe 4 or 5, 4 maybe. Now there's 10. You think of that revenue that's gone up for them in advertising. They don't want fans back in the stadium. Guarantee it. They want every game to be live from now on. That's what they're going to want to do. And you know, they paid for a certain amount of games to be able to show, didn't they? BT did and Sky did and all that and the other. But they had to show a lot more because, you know, so they basically got a lot of games for free essentially because they only paid for say 30, 40 games a season and they've shown 100. So they haven't had to pay extra, have they? They've got all that now because they've had to show them. So will they want fans back in the stadium and lose that extra revenue that they've just got generated? More people have subscribed to Sky Sports probably in the last year, and BT Sport and all that probably haven't they, than they did the year before, because every single game, every single fan who wants to watch a game has been subscribed, haven't they? Apart from me, because I don't. But anyway, you know, we'll see what happens. Mike Green in the chat there, road to 500. Well, I don't know. I'd like to get to 500 at some stage. Is his road to 1,000? Well, I'd like to 1,000 as well, but let's get to 500 first. Saka, like any player, will leave if they get used to mediocrity. Well, we'll see. I mean, hopefully we'll improve, and he won't leave. He won't want to leave. Terry, another great show. Well done, Scott, Joe, and Melvin. Many thanks for the great entertainment. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Terry. It's always a pleasure to have you in the chat as well. Your support is much appreciated, as everybody else's as well. But yeah, so I just hope that fans can be more appreciated by everybody when we're allowed back in the ground. But I'm starting to feel that we won't be. And I think that things will soon be. I think it's going to be worse than it was before, actually, if that's possible. In terms of how fans are treated, the fans in the stadium. I mean, the fans going to the game, not the fans who can't go to the game. I just feel as though it's going to get worse.
That'll be because there's a lot of fans. I mean, there's more toxic fans than there is. You know, not everyone's a toxic fan, but there are plenty of them out there. Some people have been waiting for the opportunity to get in that stadium and boo Arteta and boo X, Y, and Z. They've been building it up. So, you know, we are going to have to expect, and Arteta and the players are going to have to expect when the performances are not there, when the results are going poor, it's going to be worse than before because everybody's got that built up. But it'll go back to normal levels over time, but performances need to improve.
They do, and they definitely need to improve. And if they don't improve at the start of next season, no matter who the manager is, there's going to be a totally different environment to as it's been for the last year, when almost we've been allowed to get away with these poor results and poor performances because of the no fans. And fans in the stadium will not put up with that, will they, for this long? They wouldn't have done. I don't think Arteta would have still been in a job if fans were in the stadium this season. Honestly, I don't. But maybe the results would have been different with fans in the ground. You don't know, I suppose. You don't know either way, do we? It's probably a little bit of both, maybe. But it is what it is. And we've got Arteta at this moment in time. And let's hope that he does enough between now and the end of the season to still be in a job next season, because that will mean that we've won the Europa League, we're in the Champions League, and we can laugh at Tottenham who won it. So that's, that's going to have to be how it's going to have to be, because if we don't do that, then unfortunately you have to wonder, has Arteta got much more time? But I'm going to be optimistic, because we are still in the Europa League, certainly for the next 2 days at least, and I'm going to be confident that we can get through on Thursday. I mean, Melvin, what team would you pick on Thursday for the game? I know not what Arteta will pick.
I would pick.
Yeah, what would you
toss up whether I pick Leno or Ryan, to be honest with you, but I think I'll go with Leno. Really, I do feel like that. It's a very difficult one, this. Who played right back the other day?
Chambers.
I can't play right back. I'll play Chambers and Gabriel in the middle. I'd play Xhaka left back, right back. I suppose I'd play Bellerin, because I suppose he's the best at the moment. He's probably not.
You want to lose? You want us to lose with that defence?
I just think he might raise his game. He's got to play one good game, hasn't he? Midfield, I'd have
2 years ago.
Partey, and I suppose I'll have. Oh my God! I'll have what's his name? The Egyptian guy. I don't know. I can't believe I'm saying it. El Neni. Oh, do me a favour. And I'll have up front. I'll have obviously Lacazette up front in the middle. I'll have Martinelli on the left. I'll probably have Pepe on the right, and either Smith Rowe or Odegaard, whoever's fit. And if they're both fit, Odegaard and Smith Rowe. I forgot about Saka. Sorry, I'd have Saka.
You want 12 men?
We might need 12 men. No, I'll have Saka. I'll have Pepe. I'll have Lacazette, Martinelli. That's it.
Stick them all on 22. Let's have 22 on the pitch.
Can I play the two goalkeepers as well? Leno and Ryan.
Yeah, that might be what we'll need as well if we're going to keep a clean sheet with that defence in front of them. Gee.
Stick Renison on to do the half-time oranges.
But that would be a strange lineup. That actually, it wouldn't surprise me if Arteta goes with that. Let's hope he's listening.
Yeah, cool. So I hope he's listening.
He might pick your team. That'd be good. What about you, Jerome? What would you go with?
God, I think I'd stick with the same defence. Yeah, he won't do this, no way. But I'd probably stick with the same defence against Sheffield United. I'd probably stick with Partey and Ceballos in the middle. I'd have Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left. Hopefully, one of Smith Rowe or Odegaard would be fit, so I'd play one of them, and then Lacazette up front.
It's not bad.
But he won't. I don't think he'll play. He won't do that. But because when's the last time he stuck the same, pretty much the same team? Don't do it.
Well, he won't, and I think the reason why he won't is because I don't think he'll play Xhaka at left back.
Yeah, I don't think. No, he won't. He won't do that. No.
I don't.
But I probably would, just process of elimination. The fact that Cedric at right back, he's okay, but not for me. Not as a left back.
Well, no, it's not his natural position, is it? So
no.
He's going to be exposed during games when he plays it, and he has been. Certainly was against Liverpool. That was but they're a good side, I guess. But anyway, what about you, Scott? What would your starting lineup be?
Well, I'm just looking at the lineup from Thursday. So what I would want and what Arteta's going to do is obviously going to be very different. I don't think I would lose any sleep over it being fairly similar from the other day. Having saw what I saw with Xhaka, I was happy to see Mari in the team. I'd probably swap Holding out for Gabriel. I know we touched on it earlier. They haven't replayed together, but I think Gabriel is the better defender. And I would probably, maybe a bit controversial here, but I would leave the front, but just swap out Ceballos for El Neni. I think he's got a worldie in him recently. He's turned up a couple of times, El Neni. I just feel like he's less likely to make a mistake that's going to cost us. But I don't know. I'll probably flip-flop and change that by Thursday anyway, to be honest with you. Because you just don't know, do you? You just... You think, oh, that makes logical sense. And I think this is the thing, is it? Arteta doesn't know his best 11, but I'm not sure we as fans really know the best 11 either. So,
yeah, you're right.
We're not going to have the opportunity to know the best 11 because he keeps changing it. So we've not seen what each 11 can do to decide what our best 11 is. I mean,
another option we've got. Have we thought, could Mari play as a left back on the left instead of, if you're going to bring Xhaka back into the middle? Has Mari played out there? So you have Gabriel in.
The Gabriel Holding and Mari left back. Then we could play Cedric right back, I suppose. Then
Cedric on the right, we gets Chambers off, and then obviously Xhaka then drops into midfield with Partey, and then you can do what you want at the top. I mean, I would probably drop Pepe to be able to accommodate Ødegaard, and then obviously move Saka out and keep Martinelli. I think the Martinelli decision is crucial. I think once Arteta decides where Martinelli's playing, he'll kind of work backwards from there. Because I don't think Alba's playing. I think Lacazette's going to start.
Oh, I think Lacazette will start through the middle. It's just, will he play over on the left or will he play Martinelli? I think that's the choice. That's the choice for me.
He can't do that, Richard. He can't.
Well, he's done it.
He can actually. You're right. He can. Yeah.
He's done it enough times. It hasn't worked, but he still keeps doing it. But obviously, I think we'd all rather see Martinelli on the left because of what we know he can offer in terms of work rate, quality as well. He can score goals as he showed at the weekend. So, I mean, our biggest problems for me are still going to be left back and in midfield because without Kieran Tierney, we've struggled in the left back position because we don't have anybody else naturally who can come in and play left back there, do we? We don't have anybody in that squad that's a left back apart from Kieran Tierney. And I don't know whether Mari, for me, even if Mari can play there, would you throw him in his first game at left back in such a big important game? I don't know if that is a risk that Arteta probably
he won't do that. He won't
probably
do that.
Won't do. So,
Richard, what would you do? Richard, what team would you play?
I would probably go Leno in goal. I would play Cedric right back, but I think we're going to need him left back. So unfortunately, it means Bellerin's going to have to play right back. The two centre backs is I don't like Holding and Mari as a partnership really. I don't like Holding and Gabriel either. So. And Gabriel and Mari have never played, so I would probably
you
go.
Just don't like Holding.
Well, I just don't think he's good enough. I would go with Holding and Gabriel just because of who's fit and who's available. They've probably played together the most, so maybe go with those two, and then Cedric at left back because he's probably the only one who's played there most out of the other players that are available. That leaves Partey and Xhaka as the two in midfield, which I think is a decent enough relationship they've got there. If Ødegaard's fit, he plays number 10. I'd play Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left, and Lacazette up front. And that's assuming. And if Ødegaard's not fit and Smith Rowe is, then Smith Rowe would play number 10 instead. And I would probably go with that, with the injuries that we've got. And then, Aubameyang on the bench, El Neni on the bench, Chambers on the bench. See, the reason why I wouldn't play Chambers at centre-back is because he hasn't played there yet this season. And to throw him straight in a position in a game like that where we don't want to concede a goal, I just think it's a risk. And Arteta doesn't take risks. And I don't think we can take too many risks in this game. You know, or maybe what he could do is he could play three centre-backs, couldn't he? Holding Gabriel Mari. He could actually play the three and then take the pressure off. You know, do something what George Graham did at Anfield, play three centre-halves. As a, throwing it in there to say, do something different to catch the opposition out. They wouldn't be expecting it and give us a little bit more security, but also pushing the fullbacks on to support the midfield and maybe give us a bit more options attacking as well so we can score goals. But I don't think he'll do that either. I just think he'll play the team that's probably, he won't go too far off the team that played last Thursday, I don't think.
The good thing is, if we ain't got a clue what team he's going to pick, Slavia Prague.
No, well, they don't. Nobody knows.
I think they'll care either, actually, when they see where we are in the league and our form.
I think sometimes what Arteta does, he puts all the players' names, he puts them, writes them on a little bit of paper, folds them up, puts them in a little hat, and so he puts all the defenders in, picks one out, right back, right, okay, Cedric, centre back, Chambers, right, he'll go there. Xhaka left back. Oh, I'll have to put him there now. I've just picked him out. And that's what I think. That's how he picks the team half the time. But obviously Leno, he just obviously Leno doesn't get put in the pot. Leno just is automatically in the team for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why Ryan didn't play against Sheffield United. But anyway, so I think that's how he picks the team actually, because it seems to be so random. And every single game, there's 2 or 3 selections that you think to yourself, I didn't see that coming. But yet we should see it coming because we know he's going to do stuff that's unpredictable. So, Martinelli will probably be playing left back against.
He may not even be on the bench.
Runnison up front.
Yeah, but he's going to throw in 1 or 2 kind of. It's going to make you scratch your head a little bit and think, what's he done?
Do you know what it is? It'll be it'll be classic Arteta to drop Lacazette and play Aubameyang. Cool. I'm putting it out there. It'll be very Arteta. It shouldn't. There's no reason to do it, but it wouldn't. I'll be up really, but it'd be classic. That would just be Arteta all over to do that. He's just scored 2 goals, got a bit of form. Okay, you sit there on the bench. Let me bring Aubameyang in.
How to destroy someone's confidence in two very quick.
Well, he's done it, isn't he? He has. I mean,
he has done it
a few times this season. Players have reached a bit of form, and then he's just for some reason dropped him.
He's done it with Pepe constantly. Every time Pepe has a good game, he drops him the next game, doesn't he? Every single time he's had a decent game. I mean, I don't think he played that well the other day. I know he had a hand in the second goal, but it was a bit hit and miss for me. But I don't know. We haven't even counted Willian. None of us have said about Willian, and Willian's one of his favourites in the big game. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Willian in the lineup somewhere. I don't know where can he play left back? Do you think Willian?
If he doesn't play Aubameyang or Lacazette, he could make William captain, couldn't he?
He could do, yeah. He could make William captain.
That would be Twitter meltdown. I think seeing that guy with the armband, it'll be so undeserving. You're getting that purely on age and no other reason.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Whatever team, I actually find it quite entertaining. Whenever the team comes out, Twitter has a meltdown anyway every single game.
Yeah,
because people look at the team. I've done it myself. You look at the team and think, what on earth is that? What on earth has he done that for? And then we'll win and play really well, and it's like, okay, well, maybe it worked.
But the reason is, Richard, is because we don't, or as a fan base, we don't know our best 11. We've never put a consistent run of results together where we can all go. Generally, I mean, not everyone's always going to agree, but a well-rounded squad, or you would know 9 or 8 to 9 players you pretty much always agree on. But we as a fan base can barely agree on about 6 or 5 half the time because we don't know.
I mean, the way I look at it is, right, when I do my match preview video every week, I predict the other team's lineup as well as Arsenal's lineup. And 9 times out of 10, with the other team, I'm usually maybe 1 player out because you kind of know how they're going to line up. And usually that's how they line up. I don't get many of the other team wrong. I put our lineup down and I get 6 or 7 of them wrong every single week. And yet you think I should know Arsenal's lineup, what it's going to be. I can predict the other team's lineup virtually 100% right nearly every single game because the other teams don't make the amount of random changes that we do. And it's just...
Rich, do you go on channels for the opposition fans? Have you had any invites recently?
I've been on some other channels. Yeah, I was on Leicester recently. And I
was going to say, because they won't invite you on if you keep turning up and giving them wrong information.
Well, no, exactly. What's the Arsenal team going to be? Well, it could be any one of 21 players that might start. We just don't know. But I get Arsenal's team wrong nearly every single week because he'll throw something in that you're just not expecting, or sometimes 2 or 3, and it's like, wow. But I guess if we like Jerome said, if we don't know, Slavia Prague aren't going to know, and they can't prepare for who they're going to be facing because they won't know what the team's going to be until it gets released an hour before kickoff, and their manager might get out of team and think, right, okay, we're going to have to change our system now quickly at the last minute because of what Arteta's done. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we're looking at it negative, and maybe it's a positive in the sense that it makes us unpredictable for the other team, but it don't seem to be working very often, does it? In terms of results, I guess. But anyway, I mean, we've kind of got used to it now. So, I mean, but yeah, I'll do a preview video tomorrow of the Slavia Prague game. I will predict a lineup, but no doubt it will be completely wrong, and it will make me look quite stupid. But there you go. But Arteta's been doing it all season, and people wonder why I say Arteta's not the right man. He's not the right man because he keeps getting my team selections wrong, and he makes me look stupid.
Don't worry about the results. It's about your team selection.
It's about my team selections. Yeah, exactly. It keeps messing them up. So I never know what I'm doing. But so yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens on Thursday. But I mean, it is. Who was he put in the chat? It was Gary put there. He says he can't wait for Thursday, but he can. Yeah, I think we're all a bit like that. It's going to be a nervous night, isn't it? I think we can all kind of be agreed on that, can't we? I think we'd all say it's going to be nervous. I mean, we'd have to do a score prediction, I guess, before then. Melvin, what are you going to predict for the score on Thursday?
Oh, I'm going to go 2-0. We're going to win. I think we're going to play it cagely. I think they're going to get a bit uptight with 20 minutes to go. They're going to get more when we nick a goal. They're going to come at us, and we manage to get the second one. 2-0 to us.
That's because I mentioned Anfield before, isn't it? That's what it is.
It's probably. I think Alan Smith will get the first.
Yeah. Like Michael Thomas will steam for the last minute to get the second.
Yeah, probably.
That'd be good. Jerome, what are you thinking? What's your score prediction for Thursday? You confident?
Well, I got the first one. I said 1-1 for the first game. So whatever I say is going to happen. So I'll go 2-1 Arsenal.
Well, that would be good. Yeah, let's hope you're right. That would be really good. You're right again. Get both legs right. That would be excellent. Can't remember what I said. I think I said 2-1 for the first leg. So anyway, what about you, Scott? What are you going for on Thursday? Do you think we'll do?
Listen, I'm going to flip-flop between now and Thursday, and when I see the lineup, I'll flop again. So as it stands today at nearly 10 o'clock, I'm going to go 3-1 Arsenal. I think that we'll find a way to make it tricky. I think we're going to concede somewhere along the line. Probably maybe at 2-0 up, we'll concede, and then we'll get edgy. Well, no, we wouldn't get edgy at 2-1 up, 2-0 up, would we? Because they would need 2. But yeah, I think we'll concede, and I'm going to go 3-1. But like I say, take that with a pinch of salt, guys. Honestly, I really would. What I say.
Well, I mean, you all said we're going to get through, which is pretty good. That's pretty optimistic, isn't it?
Positive Arsenal channel.
A little bit more optimistic than we all felt last Thursday at like 10 o'clock.
True.
When their goal went in. Because it's
amazing what time does, isn't it? When you calm down.
Well, it is, yeah. But are we now being a little bit too optimistic? Maybe, I don't know. I think that it might go to extra time. I've got to be honest. I think it's going to finish 1-1. It will go to extra time, and then I think we'll score in extra time, and that will be the goal that will see it. They'll need 2 goals, and they won't get 2 goals.
Who's going to get the winner?
Who's going to get a winner?
William.
Probably somebody who doesn't. I think it's going to be someone who doesn't generally score. So
Chambers.
Maybe
El Neni, 30-yarder.
El Neni.
No, but El Neni scored a couple of 30-yarders this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, I know.
He's
bang
king.
on form, isn't he?
Who's going to get the winner? Martinelli's going to get the winner.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
That would be.
Now we are getting optimistic because you assume he's going to get pitch time.
No, I reckon he'll go extra time and he'll come on the last 10 minutes of extra time and score. That's what I like. Just before it goes to penalties.
We'll go wild. That will be a jump out the chair moment.
That will definitely be a jump out the chair moment. Yeah, I think so. You'll see. But yeah, I think it might go extra time, I've got to be honest. Just because I think Slavia Prague are an organised team and their results in Europe have been good. They're not used to losing, as we touched on before. So I think 1-1 at 90 minutes, and then we'll sneak it in extra time. Because once we score in extra time, it's game over, isn't it? Whatever point in extra time we score, they need 2 goals, and most have got 2 in extra time today. So I think that's how it'll work, and we'll go through. So, and it'll be happy days, and then we'll look forward to the semi-final as well, which will be good, won't it? That'll be a interesting game as well. But let's get through first. Let's get carried away because we've all been optimistic for 10 minutes.
I did a poll on my Twitter a couple of days ago asking this, whether people think we'll go through them. Okay, my sample base isn't huge, but it was something like 70% thought we would win or get through the tie. So I think, like I say, small sample base, but I think overall there's more people thinking we're going to win than not.
Well, that's hopefully that will translate itself somehow over to Prague into the players' minds, and although there's no fans there, they will sense the fans are backing them and wanting us to get through desperately, because we all are. I know we all moan and we're all unhappy about certain aspects and we're not all convinced about the manager and all this, that and the other, but ultimately every single Arsenal fan wants Arsenal to win or go through on Thursday, because the reason why we moan and we get angry and we maybe have a go at certain people and players and managers is because all we want is a team to win and do well, and it's frustrating when they don't. And you've got to blame somebody because somebody is to blame usually, and it's easy to blame certain players. It's easy to blame the manager, and that's what we do. But ultimately, we want the team to win and be successful, don't we? And that's why we like that, and that's why all of us are like that, really, because it's what we want, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? We want the team to win. And we get annoyed and upset when they don't. And I know I was annoyed and upset last Thursday when they scored that goal, because that to me was ridiculous to concede a goal like that, when we were 1-0 up, 5 minutes to go. But anyway, let's hope that doesn't come back to haunt us this week. Let's hope that it's not going to matter. We can look back and laugh about that and think, how silly did we look getting so angry at that goal when we ended up going through 6-1 on aggregate? We'll silly, won't we? But let's hope that's the case. That was a little bit optimistic. But anyway, thanks so much for you guys for coming on, first of all. Scott, before you go, just give your channel a plug, because I know it's quite a new channel, but you're doing some great stuff over there.
Yeah, thanks, mate. So the channel's called The Red Cannon. Some people referred to me as The Red Cannon, which is really cringy when people do it. So I always say, no, I'm just Scott. But yeah, no, as you can see, I do some graphics and bits and bobs. I do watch-alongs at the moment. We've been doing some fan cams. Obviously, I had the pleasure of your company recently, Richard, on the channel. Doing daily updates, transfer news, kind of pretty much very similar to what a lot of channels do, but we're just with my own little spin on it, really. So if you've enjoyed listening to anything I've had to say tonight and haven't upset anybody, by all means head over to the channel and check out some of the stuff I've done. Yeah, definitely go over to the Red Cannon, and that'd be a good superhero name, wouldn't it? Actually, if you were the Red Cannon, that'd be quite cool. My missus, I've mentioned this because when I thought the channel, I was like, I wanted to just be Scott. I didn't want a channel. I didn't want to go by another name. Like I hadn't been on social media really, so I was like, I want to be known as Scott, but I want the channel to have its own name. And then I come up with that, and I thought that will do. And then the missus was winding me up the first couple of days. She would see me in the morning and be like, "Oh, morning, Red Cannon," and I'm like, "No, don't call me the Red Cannon." And then some people in the chat I've seen in some streams like have referred to like me as and I'm like, no, it's just cringy as hell. But yeah, it'd be a good superhero name though, wouldn't it? I reckon. I think if I was going to be a superhero, I'd want to be known as a Red Cannon. I think that'd be a great name. Yeah. I wonder what the special superpower would be. I have to think about that, won't we? I think it'd be a few. No, that'd be pretty cool. Jerome as well. I know you appear on the channel as well, so give that a little plug as well for us before we go.
Yeah, cheers. Yep, I'm on the Transfer Exchange, which is a show which is normally on Sunday nights. It's just discussing transfers from all over the world, so not just Arsenal. We have Nathan Ellington, former Wigan and West Brom player, comes on every week. We have sort of people based out in Germany, Italy, that give us the sort of latest with what's going on in terms of different transfers. So that's the Transfer Exchange show.
Make sure you all check that out as well. And Melvin, you're the only one who hasn't got a channel. You need to get one, I think, because
I'm Billy No Mate. That's what I am. Billy No Mate. Thanks. No, I'm on this channel a hell of a lot. Thanks, Richard. Always enjoy it. Absolutely, always enjoy it. Get some really good people on as well. And I'm on Ryan Arsenal, Mr. Arsenal 89, and also from Double Square to Where. So they're my three channels, but this one was the main one I'm on. Yeah, really enjoy it. Thanks.
Seems to be at the moment, doesn't it? You're always on there, which is good. We love to have you on. It's always good to listen to your stories as well about everything, which is great. So yeah, thanks to all you guys, I say, for coming on. I hope you've enjoyed being part of the show. Thanks to all you guys in the chat as well. There's been lots of chat going on. We got a bit distracted. I did miss a few people's chats, but so if I did, I do apologise. Thanks for contributing anyway. Russ was in there. Gary, obviously, at DWTT, another good channel. Actually, check him out as well. Terry was in as well. He's usually in. Good to see Terry in. A couple of Marks. Mark Darby was in. Good to see you in again as well. Thanks for watching. And there was another. James Payne as well. Thanks for watching as well. Dave as well from the Out and Out Gunners podcast, another good channel. There's a lot of good Arsenal channels out at the minute, actually. So Anthony as well, Republic of Arsenal, another one. So many to check out. Mike Green as well was in before. He's got a channel as well, I think, so check him out as well. So yeah, thanks all you guys for watching. Thanks for obviously you guys on the panel as well for coming on.
Thank you for having me on, man. I've really enjoyed it. Absolutely, it's been a great evening.
No, it's been great having you on, and we'll have to do some more stuff in the future as well, and collaborate again and some other stuff. Obviously, Melvin will be back on again. I say it's good to have Jerome back again. I'm sure you'll be back on again at some point in the future as well, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. And so thanks everyone for watching. And if you haven't subscribed already, I know a lot of the people in the chat now I think already have done, but if there is anyone out there watching that hasn't done, please subscribe, please give it a like, share it around as well. I will be doing a preview video of the Slavia Prague game, which will go out tomorrow, and I will do a watch along on Thursday as well, which will be about 7:45. I'll go live with that, with the team news and everything else, and then the match. And then obviously on Friday we'll be looking ahead to the Fulham game on Sunday. So I'm going to try and get a Fulham fan on. So if anyone knows a Fulham fan out there who fancies coming on, let me know. I'll stick some things out on Twitter as well. So try and get, I think there's a couple of good Fulham channels actually out on YouTube. So try and get maybe one of them on and do the usual stuff there, previewing that game. Could be the only opportunity we get to do it if they don't survive in the Premier League. So it'd be good to get them on and do that. And then I'll have my own sort of preview of that game as well. And I'll probably do a watch along Sunday. It's an early kickoff Sunday, isn't it? Is it like 1:30 or something? Or is it? Does anyone know?
It is earlier, yeah. It's it is 1:30.
Oh, it's 1:30, is it? Oh, I'm going to probably miss the kickoff because I'm working. We'll go back to about 2, so I might not do a watch along then because I won't be here. But anyway, I'll watch the second half. I might do a fan cam show instead afterwards, then maybe instead of doing a watch along. But I'll sort that out later on. But there is loads coming up on the channel, so please subscribe if you haven't done so, and give it a like. And of course, in the meantime, heading towards what is going to be our biggest game, as was mentioned before, since Baku. It probably is, without a shadow of a doubt. So really big game on Thursday. We've got to do it, haven't we? Come on, we're all confident. We've all predicted a win. So come on, Gunners, make sure we do it.
Come on.
Prove us right. Prove us right for once.